max. I'ma keep it going till there ain't none left. Going till there ain't none. Keep the flame on max. I'ma keep it going till there ain't none left. Going till there ain't none. Keep the flame on. Gotta keep the flame on.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the third online round of the AMX ESPORTS Championship. We're heading towards the Junior Cup here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway in just a couple of moments' time, and of course we'll have the real drivers take part in the main season over at the Nürburgring as well. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be joined as always by the absolutely wonderful Sumil Arora. We've got another oval race, Sumil, to start us off here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Not so much the super speedway that we saw at Daytona. This is just a little bit shorter than that one, but still going to be a bunch of fun, I get the feeling.
Absolutely, Connery. As you mentioned, it may not be as big as Daytona, but on entertainment, Charlotte always delivers. And this one is the oval layout. The surface is very smooth as well. And the racing should be so much fun. In practice, we saw some crazy images of drivers going side by side, 3 wide, and keeping it there. Now, I don't need to tell you what you're going to expect in the race once you have seen that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a pretty hectic round, at least when the sort of grown-up drivers, the influencers in the AMX Esports Championship headed themselves to Daytona last time around. But here at Charlotte in the Junior Cup, things might be a little bit different. Of course, these cars, very, very high downforce. They can just rip it around the circuit without a care in the world. We're seeing a lot of bump drafting in practice as well, so it seems like making friends out there is going to be very, very important for this event. That's where we saw a lot of the fast times in practice come through as well.
Yeah, that's so true. So many drivers going out there using teammates. As we saw in the influencer race the last time out as well, you need multiple cars to line up that draft, which will then give you the advantage on the straights and let you pull away in an oval. Because unlike a road course race, there's really not much where you can gain on the track right here, apart from having a drafting buddy or a drafting partner. That is where the advantage can be gained. And so many drivers, Yunho Park included, have done that extremely well. Is there any reason to be surprised at all by that, Connery?
No reason at all. He's an absolutely fantastic driver, and well, maybe this will be one of the closer events that we'll get to see over the course of the season, since, you know, the draft is the big equalizer. Ovals usually are big equalizers. But let's have a look at the schedule then. Round number 3 here at the Junior Cup at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and well, next time we head out to Okayama for round number 4, then Summit Point, then Laguna, then we go back to Charlotte actually for the final round of the season. But we will be on the road course instead. But the oval for the time being, Sumil, and well, just to recap the situation for everyone, we will be having cautions enabled in this session, but they will not be automatic. They will be decided as and when by the race administrators, and we won't be having any cautions inside those final crucial 5 minutes.
I don't think that's going to be a major problem, because so far in the Junior Cup races, all the chaos has only happened in the first 5 minutes. And there's a good chance that we might get to see one eventually at the start of this race too. And being an oval, right, there's always that feeling that when you get a bit too close, when you bump draft a bit too much, you can't turn the car up ahead around. That could be a very realistic possibility, especially at the start here, Connery. But I get a feeling that the tensions will be really high at the end. Now, it gives a chance to many other drivers, apart from Yunho Park, to also get out there and compete at the front. It'll be the first time in this championship that they'll be in that sort of position. How will they cope up with it? Will they be a bit too aggressive? Will they end up making mistakes that can cause accidents? That is something that I'm very intrigued to see towards the end.
Yeah, that's the crucial point. You're exactly right in that some drivers might find themselves in a position today where they have a chance to win, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't otherwise. That's just how things work here at ovals. With at least the ones where you don't have to lift out on a clean lap. Of course, you do have to lift out if you are going to go too fast into the back or so. When you do have to lift and give them a little bit of space. But we've seen some pushing going on out there. We've seen some bump drafting, so you can make it work by lining up 2, maybe even 3 long in terms of your drafting train and try and get by someone. But yeah, this is going to be a complete unknown until the final lap, I get the feeling.
True.
It's going to be absolutely crazy, and if they can keep them all together in one big pack, there's no telling who's going to win this race.
That's a big if right there, Connery.
Yeah, it is. We've seen our fair share of incidents in the Junior Cup here, and of course we saw it in the Daytona influencer race for the main championship as well. But I think these guys will be a little bit more sensible. I mean, I think they've got it out of their system through the first 2 rounds of the season, so now we can come into round number 3 with a little bit better in terms of the sort of giving space out there as well. But then again, it is an oval in some very fast, high downforce cars, so you could go either way, right?
True. Yeah, I think they'll be a bit too messy this time out, just saying, because they've not quite been on this sort of surface before. Many of them have previous sim racing experience, but to be in that radical in an oval, it's a completely different experience altogether. And you don't often race radicals at a circuit like this one. So I get a feeling that being the first race of a kind, I think they'll be just a slight bit messy than usual, but it'll sort out eventually. As we saw the last time out at Oran Park as well, there will be a few incidents here and there, but the racing towards the end will be crazy. And Oran Park was just something else. I didn't expect a quality of a race like the one we saw the last time out, and I get a feeling that while messy, we may see some shock upsets. This is the best chance for someone to come out here and beat Yunho Park, who's been making the Junior Championship his own turf so far.
Yeah, of course, 2 for 2 in the championship at the moment, by far and away the points leader at the moment, and he's really set the baseline that everyone has to go chasing at this point. It's we're still in the early stages of the season, so there's ample opportunity for someone to try and find their footing and try to challenge him at the very front, at least on the road courses. It might happen more towards the end of the season as drivers get used to the car and get used to the tracks, get used to iRacing in some of the cases as well. Since some of these drivers are, drove in other sims, other games, and are still trying to adapt to the way things work here on iRacing as well. But I think later on in the season, I think Yunho Park can't really get that complacent because everyone will, at least be trying very hard to get up to speed.
But then again, Yunho Park will be working on that as well. Remember, all these teams and drivers, they just have this sort of advantage when you're competing in the main championship that you get to work with the real world driver. Now, not all the junior drivers compete in the real championship. I think only 3 of them are competing in both series. Yunho Park is one of them. He gets to work with real world drivers in his major team who could then eventually help him to get better. So I think he has that for an advantage. But the crucial part is he's not the only one. 2 other drivers there as well. I think this eventually should be a talking point to watch out for later on. Because how these 3 guys mature, that's going to be the fun part.
Yeah, I think it is as well. It's a great opportunity for those drivers to sort of gain that experience in a competitive setting as well, because these opportunities are very hard to come by in the region of the world, in East Asia, in Korea, in these sim racing events. Of course, other esports are so popular and there's ample opportunities there, but not so much in esports racing. And, that's what this championship was designed to try and create hype about, to try and help the guys that are racing here in this in the Korean esports team, to try and get them up to a level where they can compete on the international stage, for example, in the Porsche Takoya Esports Super Cup in the maybe in a couple of years' time. You never know.
I wouldn't be surprised, knowing how dedicated most Korean esports players are. Within a couple of years, you'll find them from the grassroots all the way up to the World Championship levels, and you won't even be doubting their potential by a single bit. They're just that good. In fact, some wonderful featured articles have been written on the internet as well as to why Koreans are so good at esports. It's largely down to that gaming cafe sort of culture where PCs are too hard to afford at home, so they just end up going to gaming cafes that are very, very cheap, and they end up spending a lot of time there. And one might say, yeah, but don't you have something better to do? When they end up winning multi-million dollars as prize money in those major tournaments, that sort of statement goes out of the window at all. So it's amazing to see this evolution of Korean esports players. And I just hope that this extends to sim racing as well. Sure, the equipment might be slightly more costly than playing a game like League of Legends or Valorant, but when they get to it, when they put their heart and mind to it, you know that all these Korean players can dominate there big time.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's we all start from somewhere, and
True.
hopefully we can get ourselves progress going forward and see these guys at the top level of sim racing in the years to come. But we are just advancing ourselves into the qualifying session then, so we are just about ready to get ourselves qualifying here in the Junior Cup. And qualifying is going to work a little, of course, differently compared to most oval racing that you'll see here on iRacing, but not so different compared to what you'll see in the real world. Of course, we get 10 minutes of open qualifying here, and of course, you can see that timer has already started. So let's get the live pictures up on screen for you now. Welcome to the Charlotte Motor Speedway then. Of course, basically the home of NASCAR. Of course, the NASCAR Hall of Fame is here, and of course the Coke 600 is run here as well, the longest race on the NASCAR calendar. And well, we don't usually play host to these cars, but let's just see what happens.
Yeah, the Radicals, I think they rarely make it across to America, do they? Mostly you might find them at Laguna Seca, or these days even at the Circuit of the Americas for that matter. But Charlotte, that's going to be a first. I genuinely hadn't ever seen a Radical SR8 at Charlotte before watching the practice session, but from what I can tell, Conry, already the excitement level is up to 11. The drivers, they are making this car work, you know. They are producing some really fun action. And this is only practice so far. This is when the energy of the drivers is still a bit lower down. Later on, when the intensity is high and when there's a lot to win for, a lot to drive for, that is when we'll see some really crazy stuff happening as well.
Yeah, hopefully we won't see too much very incredibly crazy stuff happening in this race, at least in terms of the incidents that we sometimes see in these sorts of events. But let's just see what happens here. You can see them heading their way through the exit of NASCAR turn 4 there, and already we have a rather large incident coming across the start-finish line to start qualifying. So that's not exactly ideal there, is it?
Yeah, the perfect understatement is what I'd like to call it. Yeah, that just happens eventually, right? It's oval racing. You will get things spilling over sometimes. Just enough smoke to make it look too dramatic, but all the other drivers will take it safely. Now, I was wondering, how many crashes will we see today? Because Charlotte is, let's just say it's a deceptively quick circuit, right? When you come to look at the size of it, you might think, yeah, it's a bit of a slow one. But when you drive on it, it can be a bit too fast, and holding your line, holding your momentum can be a bit tricky when you're racing together. So I think we might see a few accidents, quite like this one, of this scale. But it's largely going to be about who can survive it, and that is largely down to instincts. And it's going to be a very hard task for each of them to survive it so far, when the track can be so narrow at times.
Yeah, can be. So you can see the provisional order on the left-hand side of your screen. Of course, these guys can, well, complete as many laps as they can in the allotted time here. It's not like the heat race qualifying that we'll see a little bit later on, where it's once you get towards the end of the session, time expires and you're done. You do get that one more lap in this series, so it might be all that's needed. Plus, there's no lap limitation on you, considering there's not a lap limited qualifying that you would see in the lone sort.
Yeah, exactly. All about lining up the draft, waiting for the perfect moment, and track evolution is not as major a thing right now today as it would be in the real world, right? As the surface evolves, as we see more drivers driving, as we see the temperature changing, sometimes track evolution can play a major role. So it may be a bit of an advantage to go out early, a bit of an advantage to go out later, depending on how things can be, but not so much right here. The surface is going to be the same, more or less, all the way through. So it's not about when you put your lap in, it's about how much draft you can get. What sort of gain can you get from your partners? And right now, Yunho Park is doing just that. Look at us on board right now. Hee Jung-an is in second place. He's working together with Yunho. Getting a bit too close for comfort, I would say. But that's what you have to do, Conry. That is just the way out. Otherwise, you might end up being in that pack in around P7, P8, who have not worked with someone to get that sort of run in.
Well, we saw this in practice as well, where Yunho and Heejung were working together to be able to set fast times, and the exact same thing has happened here in qualifying as well. So those two drivers working together. Heejung is going to dip down to the apron to come down on towards the pit lane. Same with Yunho as well, so they'll be coming down in there. So we've got another group of 3 here. We saw Hyesung Na get up into P3, and he's involved in this big Gaggle car. As you can see him, he's in the green trim car, looking to the outside there, behind this group of, well, at the tail end of this group of 3.
Yep, exactly. Hyesung Na, good to see him up in the top 3. I don't think we've ever seen him in such a high position so far, but it just goes back to the point that we mentioned early on. New faces, a chance for more drivers to come out there and prove what they're all about in Nova. It's not so much about how much speed can you carry into a corner, it's about how much momentum can you keep on. And as we see a car right there going into the barrier, it just reinforces the same point. You can't go out there and set your fastest lap on the first lap. You have to build it up, you have to keep growing in momentum, and maybe lap number 3, lap number 4, that's going to be your fastest one. And in there, even if you make a marginal mistake, like making a marginal steering movement or heading into the wall of some sorts, that's it. You have to build that momentum yet again and do 3-4 more laps once again to get back to your fastest possible lap time. And that's too much of an ask only when everyone's so close at the top.
Yeah, see them coming across the line now. Hyesung Na, again, a 1:34.292, simply not going to be good enough, especially considering the provisional pole position time is a 33.796 at the moment, and there's only 2 thousandths of a second separating the top 2 cars at the moment. You can't quite see that on the left-hand side, considering they are down on towards the pit lane, but that is what the times are, and you know, it's super crazy that these guys are that close, and you've got, what, we've got top 4 cars within a single tenth of a second as well.
Amazing stuff, isn't it? And it's only going to get closer as we go deeper into the qualifying session. Meanwhile, I'm a bit interested to see why Junho Jang, who's been somewhat of a star performer, apart from Yunho Park, is only in P number 7 so far. He was quite interesting in both the first races, in both the first and the second race. Wonder what's happened to my grammar today. But yeah, only finding himself in P number 7, and it's interesting, right, isn't it? Maybe he just might be a road course specialist, or he's packing the punch for the main race.
Possibly, but I'm having a look at him in qualifying here. He's got a car behind him. He doesn't have any friends in front of him, though, so he's not going to get a draft. So, and I don't think he's had much of an opportunity to get a draft in this 10-minute session. And, well, he has to get a move on because there's 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in this event. At this point, if you're Junho Jang, then it might be better for you to just maybe let this car go, try and find another group to run with. You can come down onto the pit lane if you have to, just to make sure that you can sit up behind 2-3 cars to be able to get that draft.
I mean, honestly, it just feels like college all over again, isn't it? You have to make friends, you have to find groups of friends. You can't be on your own together. You can't just eat lunch on your own in the lunch table. You have to be with people around here. That's the critical part. And no, in this case, there's nothing about, oh, I look cool, or I'm with the right friend group or whatever. It's just about being faster. And at the end, that's what the key aim is.
Yeah, so across the line for these guys, not expecting them to be able to improve their positions there, and they don't take their way across the line. 1 minute 30 seconds left. There is your dynamic duo, I would say, Yunho Park and Heejung An. Of course, in the inverse order, as we see them on track with Heejung leading Yunho around. And now it's Yunho giving the push, and we'll see a car dip in behind them as well. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to get up behind all of this because you know they're going fast, and if you can get the slipstream on both of them, well, you're going to go faster.
Absolutely. Is there any surprise that the 2 drivers that are also racing in the Pro Championship, Yunho Park and Heejung An, are also the ones leading qualifying right now? Some very good stuff right there. And what I'm actually intrigued to see currently in the race is just how quick they are through the trioval section, because the Radical, as we all know, can turn in like an absolute beast. You just make one marginal steering movement and the car will dart its way through. I cannot imagine what the tribal section must feel like in that car when you're going side by side with somebody. That must be frantic, and there's the first one.
Oh, held it though. It's a massive gaggle of cars making their way across the line now. Everyone wanting to be a part of this pack at the moment because they know that's the way to go fast. It looks like they're having a bit of a race here in qualifying more than an actual qualifying session. Now this is the final lap. Oh, big wreck, and that's going to ruin a lot of drivers' final qualifying laps here. In fact, it's probably the majority of the field that has had to slow up for that one. And, well, with only 5 seconds left remaining, time will expire, so any lap these drivers are on right now will be able to be completed. But yeah, that's not exactly the way you would like to see qualifying end across the line for these guys, not expecting anyone to set a good time after that incident. But yeah, that was perhaps one of the opportunities for someone to try and break the deadlock of that Yunho Park, Hee-jung An front row. But it was just all bottled, I suppose.
Yeah, it was bound to be. There were too many cars on one stretch of tarmac at one point of time. And knowing the lack of experience at this particular layout in this car can be a bit tricky to do that. So you can only excuse them for that. But it makes it harder for themselves because now they've got to pass more cars, and that, even though might be slightly easier on an oval than a road course, we've seen time and time again that when the defending is resolute, as we saw in the last race in the Influencers one, passing can still be quite hard.
Yep, it really can be. So qualifying is over 6. Then you have a look back to your top 12 drivers, Hong Seo Jang and Junho Jang. You got Woo Jin Shin, Jung Hyo Kim, Sukhyun Nam, Mingal Kim, and having a look back towards those drivers at the sort of final couple of rows of the starting grid. You've got those drivers of Woo Jae Sung, Kai Hu Lee, Jung Hyun Choi, I'm gonna butcher it. Yeon Na and Taehyun Kim rounds out the 17-car starting grid here today. You say my pronunciation is getting much better, Sumil. I somehow doubt that, but we got it.
At least the first ones look quite awesome.
Yeah. We just about got there. But drivers taking themselves towards the starting grid here in just a couple of moments. Of course, we will get that one pace lap to be done here. There they are out there on circuit. And, well, double file start. This is the only time we'll see them do a double file start. All the restarts will still be a single file here in this one, just to make sure things are not too chaotic when it comes to restarts. But yeah, these guys just waiting patiently behind that pace car, and soon we'll be able to get ourselves racing.
Now put yourself in the seat of, say, someone like in Hee-jung An, who wants to win this championship oh so desperately, knowing that there are so many other cars behind you, knowing that you'll be going for a rolling start, side by side, at Charlotte, in a car this fast, gives me jitters to think about it. I won't be able to handle it mentally, because it can be a bit too crazy at times, just unnerving to have so many cars around you and then darting off at such a speed. But that's the critical part of ovals. It's a race that you win with your mind more than anything. It's not your ability, it's your mind that gets you in the best part. Should you be in P1 at the final lap? Maybe not. Maybe it's a better thing to be at P2. Those sort of split-second decisions that you have to make can eventually fetch you the maximum points in a format like this one. This is going to be fun, Conway. This is going to be extremely close. And the fact that we're going back to Old Charlotte also makes it a bit special. Good to see this track make a return.
Someone almost already had a problem there at the very back of the field. I think that was Kim Tae-hyun having a bit of a lock-up there, perhaps surprised by the cars ahead just slowing up a little bit, but he's been able to get back on circuit. Remember, damage is off for this event, so if those drivers do have a big crash, well, they can get back in the race. So we should have no retirements over the course of this race, despite, although we might still have those of a technical nature, but let's not have a think about that just now, and let's have a little think about this race start then. It's going to be Yunho Park and Hee-jung An as your front row. You can see the purple trim car of Yunho on the inside, the orange trim of Hee-jung on the outside, and Hae-sung Na also on that inside there in the green trim as well. As the great NASCAR driver and NASCAR commentator Darrell Waltrip was saying, boogie, 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 we can actually go wrecking boys at the very back there. That was a horrible, horrible start, and caused me to trip over my words somewhat, but the rest of the field, at least the very front of the field, has gotten themselves to a very, very good start here. All got themselves single file, and down the back straight they go for the first time.
Looks like you weren't the only one tripping, Connery. So many cars in the background just missing the start. And you can't quite blame them because they've never really done a race in this particular format. But that's the challenge of the AMX Junior Cup.
We have a caution for the first time. Someone's already gone off. Mark Nui has gone out into the grass there. Luckily, he was under the yellow, so he might even be able to get that second back. Although Iris might have judged him to be out of control and has decided that all those cars coming by, careful with the rejoin boys, and there we go. Everything should be fine. I'm not sure what's going on back here. Everyone just trying to stack up for the pace car, I presume. But that's our first caution of the day so far.
Can't say we didn't expect this, did we? It was going to happen. It's an oval, things get chaotic, even though you're the best juniors in the country. Can be a bit hard, but you've got to excuse them because they mostly are road course racers. The first time coming to an oval, but that was intended by the series. They wanted to test who's the best across formats, who can do it on a road course, on a longer road course, on a short oval, and the longest ovals as well. So very much intended by race control, by the series organizers, and we're getting a good idea. Some drivers finding it a bit uncomfortable to adjust to the starting procedure because there's this sort of period of uncertainty where you don't know whether the cars ahead of you have gone or not. So you end up putting your floor to the metal, and a pedal to the metal, that is, goodness me, and eventually end up causing accidents like that one. But again, you make a mistake once, you don't make it twice. So they will be learning from that one.
Hang on,
at least so, I hope.
I just spotted Jung Hyo Kim just go for a bit of a barrel roll. I'm not entirely sure what this one is about, I'll be completely honest. We'll cycle things back to try and get a good look at it, but oh my words, let's have a look. That's the end of it, so let's cycle things back just that little bit further. What has happened to Jung Hyo Kim here? I am not entirely certain.
Oh, I know what's coming.
That's the best example of a concertina sort of accordion effect that I've ever seen.
And what makes it better is the front end of a radical is literally shaped like a spatula, so you can flip the car over.
Yeah, you can. So there we go. I think I'll pull that clip, and I will just show when everyone, when I'm trying to explain what happens in those situations where the car ahead slows up, then the car behind has to slow up even more, and then the car behind has to slow up even more. I'll just use that clip because that was a very good example.
Dario Franchitti would call it the concertina, and I love the way he says it. But yeah, that's exactly what's happening. But so far, Conley, the bigger impact of this is that the race hasn't even begun, but we're already 3.5 minutes in. So that has taken out a major chunk of time for these drivers. Imagine if you're someone in, say, the midfield. Imagine if you're someone like Sakyut Nam, who wants to get ahead. If you are in P number 7 or P number 8, you will be losing a major chunk of time where you can go ahead and make a move. This does not help your chances.
So pace car lights are off. That means we will be going green this time around. So remember, single file start, not the double file that we saw at the very start of the event. So we'll soon see that pace car pull down on towards the pit lane, and we can actually go racing for more than 2 corners here in just a couple of moments' time. Let's see. So fields will have to go on green. That is the rule here in the AMX ESPORTS Championship. So there's no shenanigans to be played as the race leader. Everyone just has to go on green. So you can see them holding the field up. And now we're going to go green here at Charlotte for the second time in the AMX ESPORTS Junior Cup. And we don't have a wreck on the start like last time, so it looks like we're good to go.
Yep, only the green flags waving, nobody finding their way into the green grass so far, and I hope it stays that way. You know, Park defending quite well at the top, but the draft train, Connery, in the inside line is super prevalent. Nobody choosing to go to the outside line yet.
Yeah, everyone just, most people actually sticking towards that inside. We do have a couple of cars looking to the outside. There's been an instant further back though, but I think they have kept it all together. No, big wreck at the back. involving Wu Jae-sung and a couple of the drivers, Hong Seo Zhang, also involved in that one. I don't know if you'll get another yellow off of that one, considering it was the cars mostly towards the very back of the field, but we'll just have to wait and see. There is the opportunity to do it. We're not inside 5 minutes of the end just yet.
That was a bit odd. Myung-Kine, that was Jin-Wook Choi dipping down below the white line, so is he heading to the pit lane, which would be a bit odd. Oh yeah, I think it might be a penalty from the very start, so race control might be acting on that and might have given a penalty to Jin-Wook Choi for causing one of the incidents. Otherwise, it makes no sense for him to get into the pit lane because damages are off.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's going to have to try and find his pit stall there and get himself sorted for in terms of the penalty. One thing you don't want to do is miss your pit stall, otherwise you'll have to... I mean, if you miss it by a little bit, you can reverse down pit lane. Oh! Zhang and Haisung Na, they wreck up in turn 4, spin back up into traffic, big wreck, and I gotta say this will be another yellow.
Welcome to Charlotte International Airport. Oh boy.
Oh my word, no yellow just yet, but I think if there's, that was sort of a wreck of similar size to what we saw the first one, so I'm suspecting that we'll be able to get a yellow, but let's have a look back at the replay then. That's a little bit too soon, so let's cycle things back just that little bit more. Is Haisung Na just getting into the back of the car ahead of him, and it just requires those taps. They were fine until they all chased each other up the banking there. Otherwise, they would have been able to hold that together, but it just kind of all piled on top of each other, one after the other, after the other.
I mean, the car gets so loose, right? When you're traveling at that speed and when you're right behind somebody, they're punching a hole through the air for you. And there's literally nowhere that you can cut through in the middle. So your car it's very loose, gets very frisky. And it's those slight movements that you make which cause accidents like this one, but they don't cause a yellow flag, luckily. So we can go green, we can look at this battle, and Junwei Park is playing his cards. He's going to the outside line now.
Yeah, he is, so what's Junwei able to do there? Junwei, as is the correct pronunciation, not much around the outside there, so he's just going to stay in line for now, and well, there's still this sort of leading pack of about 4 cars at the moment. And Junie once again looking towards the outside there as we see a swap around. Oh, 3 wide for the race lead.
Wow.
My words, that is crazy there. I thought something was getting crazy at the very front there, but look at this, 3 wide into turn 1. Lee Jung-an to the front of the field, Yunho Park in P2, and like I was saying, our cameras got a little bit distracted there. Chuni Park in P3 there. So it's a 3-car train right at the very front of the field. And, well, there's another 3-car train right behind them by about 4 seconds.
Don't tell me that didn't just feel like 3 fighter pilots going right past together. That was amazing. Such great synchronization. But they kept it clean, which is beautiful, as the fighter pilots would do as well. Meanwhile, at the Tri-Oval, it's a place where mistakes can often happen. Just look at Texas 2016 from IndyCar. Luckily, nothing right here. But the bump drafting is prevalent, and that's what you need to do when the gaps are so wide open like this one. You have to keep others behind. They're doing it so well at the top here.
Yeah, so leading 2-0 now, Hee Jung-an and Yunho Park. They've been working together throughout the entirety of this race day at the moment. They're really leaving Junie Park in their dust at the moment, and if Junie's not too careful, in fact, I think it might have already happened, Junie Park's lost the draft of the race leaders.
Oh, goodness me. So how does he recover? I mean, when you're under a gap of 3 seconds, it's still doable, but 5 seconds might be a bit too much. We saw that 3-second gap being covered up in the influencers race last time out when we had a big wreck. But 5 seconds without having a drafting partner? That seems a bit unlikely.
Yeah, the lap traffic in between this leading duo and the next pack sort of confused me somewhat there. But yeah, that gap is way, way larger than I thought it was. So yeah, it's Junie Park. He's currently sort of leading this little group of 4 around at the moment. This is where most of the action is in the battle for P3 out there on circuit. So Junie Park, Kai-Hu Lee, Mingyal Kim, Yeon-woo Na are the 4 drivers involved in this particular battle. For that final step on the podium, and we've got side by side for P4.
Now let's add a little bit more context into what you're seeing right now, because Junwei Park Well, let's just say the last time out he didn't have the best of days, but he's doing such a good job in P number 3 right now. He's always been there or thereabouts pretty much. But seeing him here in P3, seeing him defend so hard is quite awesome. But what's not so good, if you're say someone in like the back positions, Hongsu, John Conway, only P number 9. I thought Hongsu would be far higher up.
Yeah, I thought so too, but again, it's a different sort of discipline here, this auto racing. It's, it requires a slightly different skill set to what these drivers are used to trying to rely on. So you can kind of understand that some drivers are perhaps ahead of where they usually are, or some drivers are behind where they usually are, and that's just the nature of things in a multi-disciplined sort of season. I mean, the original plan was to have the main season even more multi-disciplines than it is already with rallycross events and some such, but yeah, that changed somewhat, and it'll just be the GT3s and the GTEs for that main event, but yeah, you still need that adaptability because, especially when it comes to doing the offline events, our first one's not too far in the future now. You have to be adaptable, you have to get used to what you're being given in terms of the sim rig, in terms of the conditions, in terms of the pressure.
You have to, and if you are adaptable, if you show that sort of quality, imagine the number of big teams in Korea and worldwide watching this, right? Because all of these junior drivers can potentially be scouted by the bigger teams. Say somebody like DCD Esports, like Team BTC, like Atlas BX Esports team. I got the name slightly wrong, but imagine if they're watching. Imagine if they see you doing such a good job right here. There's a good chance you might be picked up by those teams, and why not? If you can prove your mettle in this junior category that is so volatile, there's a good chance for you to be Korea's next big thing.
Certainly that possibility. So we've been watching this sort of secondary pack that try and sort themselves out. Of course, we have that 2-car breakaway right at the very front of the field. They've got themselves more than 8-second gap now. My word, those guys have been working together in a crazy fashion to be able to pull up that sort of gap. But I think it's less them working together so well, and this second pack just being a little bit disorganized.
Yeah, exactly. They have to do what they're doing constantly, but they're still not closing up because the leaders are also benefiting from the draft as they get a bit too risky. Finally, Conway, I think some drivers are getting daring enough to use the outside line. It feels like the hurry up button has been pressed deep down inside, and they are trying and not succeed all the time, though.
Oh, big wreck. Oh, well, big spin towards the inside there for Jungwoo Na, somehow able to hold on to it. But let's just take a look at exactly what happened there, just to have a little bit of a recap. So let's have a look then from up above. Here they are coming through NASCAR turn 3 and 4. Jungwoo Na is in that green car, just sitting there waiting, trying to find an opportunity here. Looks to the inside to the tri-oval, and the car ahead just cuts right down on him.
Yeah, such a shame to watch things like this one, but if there's anything, right, they know how to keep their cars clean, Conway. I think I've seen at least 5 saves and 5 amazing saves since the practice session began earlier this evening. Crazy stuff. Even though the junior drivers might be juniors by a tag, they can certainly save their cars, that's for sure.
They certainly can, as they'll go 2x2 once again here for P number 3. It's Junie Park in that green trimmed car at the very front. Mingal Kim trying to make some progress here as well. Oh, that got very, very close up towards the start-finish line. But Mingal Kim up into P3. Now they're going to try and challenge on the outside for the front part of this train. But going to find no success there as well. I don't think he's going to find any success whatsoever unless he gets any help up there.
Woojin Shin is swerving like crazy. They're going to the inside line now. Into the white line, Connery. That's not allowed. And the momentum is eventually lost. And so is control of the car.
Mingal Kim and Shin Woojin make contact through turn 4. Let's take a look back at what the situation is. Theoretically, could still get a caution here. We're 10 seconds away from the 5-minute mark, but let's have a look at the replay then. once again from up above. I think it's going to be a simple case of not enough room being left on the insides there for drivers to be able to make racing room, and yeah, that's just what happens in those situations. Hard impact for Shinwujin into the wall as well.
Yeah, once again, one of those major accidents happening at the top of the field, which is what is so sad to see. But it promotes new people in, it promotes someone again will take him up into a higher position. So he's found his way up into P number 6. That is good stuff for him. But other drivers are not quite able to gain from that. Woo Jin Shin only P9. Jung Yo Kim was slightly higher, I remember. Yeah, not good for them right now. But only 4.5 minutes to go, Conway. I think this is the time where things could get even more crazy. And Yunho Park, what is he going to do now? Because he's in second place. Yeah, sure, things could work just about fine for him just by being where he is. But does he want to be in P number 2 when he can get P1?
No driver wants to finish second, so no. I think that's what I'll say in response to that. If you have the opportunity to go for the race win, then the vast majority of drivers are going to try their best to try and get onto that top step of the podium, and I don't think Yunho Park is any different in that regard. Although things are complicated somewhat, since there are 2 pieces of flat traffic ahead of these guys that might just factor into this battle. Where does Yunho Park go? He's still tucked up right behind Hee-jung. I think he's pushing him all the way until the last lap here.
What is it? Is Yunho Park's favorite movie Man of Steel? He's just ice cold in a situation like this one. Good to see his steering movements are very, very controlled. And you're right, Conway, he is going to be pushing right down to the final lap. I think, how is he not tired looking at that rear end of Hee-jung-an? The only thing he's going to see is his spoiler and a few things flying past his left or his right. At this stage, just holding on to your composure is very, very hard. And the reason why Yunho might challenge for the win right here is because we're only at round number 3 of a 10-round championship. He can't afford to pick up points that he can't afford to drop points that he can potentially pick up. So he's going to go for it. He's going to rush for it. He's going to try for P number 1. And then maybe by round 6, round 7, if he's in a good situation, maybe then in these sort of situations, he might back off.
Yeah, let's see then. So there they are, in their way through NASCAR turns 1 and 2. And there's a whole cackle of cars behind them that might disrupt things somewhat in this particular battle for the race lead. We're heading into we are in our final minutes of the race. We're heading to 2 minutes to go, just a good handful of laps remaining here in this one, and it's a 2-car tango at the very front. Hee-jung and Yunho Park have been dominant since the very start. They've gained a 17-second gap over the rest of the field here. That's fantastic stuff. Oh, contact! Oh! Woo Jin Shin up into the wall, and that's not the first time he hasn't given enough room on the inside.
All that time you have to leave a space, but it's oval racing. The blue flag does not matter here. You have to pass the back markers on your merit, and there, well, let's just say, got a bit too messy. Will there be penalties coming on the way? Only the stewards will tell, but yeah, I think Woo Jin just should have slightly moved off. Slightly.
Yeah, you gotta leave the cars into the space, and leave just a little bit more, another quarter of a car's into space, just to let the leaders through a little bit more comfortably, so they don't have to try and somehow squeeze through on your inside like that. But coming up to a minute to go, again, just a few laps remaining here in this one. Remember, they're doing about 33 seconds in terms of their lap times here, so coming up towards the start-finish line, this coming up to a minute to go. There we go, there's a minute to go in the race. Of course, can be sometimes quite marginal whether the race finishes on the exact lap or not when it comes to iRacing, when it comes to it being very close to within a couple of seconds coming across the line. But here we go, Yunho Park just has to time this to perfection.
And we saw the last time out that being in P number 1, well, it can work out in the influencers race. The drivers were able to hold on to P number 1 in both the sprint and the feature race. Is Yunho in the prime position? Ideally, P2 is the place to be on the final lap.
Ideally, but is that in reality? Let's have a look then as they head on towards the NASCAR turns 1 and 2 for the final time. Yunho Park in P2 there. Position 2 in that 4-car train. Hee Jung-an getting pushed still. It's getting very, very close, isn't there, Sumil? Lap traffic ahead might be an issue here on the run to the line. It might even work in Hee Jung-an's favour, since he can just work the slipstream of those lapped cars. Now, coming up towards that start-finish line, it's Hee Jung-an taking the race win here to break the winning streak of Yunho Park.
Very good. That was very good by Hee Jung-an. Held on to it. And that's the important thing. Used the lap traffic to perfection. Just did not give a single inch to Yunho Park to make that good move. Held on to it like a kid holding on to their mother's finger or something quite like that. He was superb on that final lap. And very well deserving to break Yunho Park's streak. We said early on that new names could come in and new names could break Yunho Park's a monopoly so far on the championship. Who knows, is it going to be a duopoly now by the end of the season?
It might end up being Hee Jung-an. Great performance. Just try and hold on to that. Of course, a little bit of luck involved as well with the lap traffic towards the end there, just giving him the slipstream required to be able to come home with the race win. But as he heads his way down on towards the pit lane, we're going to head our way to the unofficial race results. Of course, this can still be affected by stewards' decisions post-race, but these are the results as they stand right now, with Hee Jung-an P1 over Yunho Park. Fantastic stuff from the driver of the number 13. Junie Park in P3. Great result for him considering what happened last time out there at Oran Park. Mingyal Kim in P4 with Kyu Lee in P5. Yun Woo Na in P6. Jung Hyun Choi in P7. Hong So Jang in P8. Suk Hyun Nam in P9. And Jung Hyo Kim in P10. Rounds out the top 10 here today. Then there's drivers at the back half of the back portion of the field. Woo Jin Shin, Jun Ho Jang, Taehyun Kim, Woo Jae Sung, Hai Sung Na, Woo Yok, Jin Wook Choi, and Sung Young Kang. That is your 17-car unofficial finishing results here, Sumil. And, well, we expected a little bit of a bonkers race, and we kind of got it.
Yeah, inevitable, right? It's an oval race. You are going to get some sort of drama. What I really like to see, though, is that there is a new winner. Good job by Hee Jung-an right there. And it's that sort of format change that gives a chance for new drivers to come in and show their skills in that aspect. Because Hee Jung-an, he was good in both the road course races, but was he as composed as he was today? Not quite. He's done a superb job right here. And for Yunho Park, he can just go back. He can try and understand what's just happened. But he'll be under pressure, both Yunho Park and Hee Jung-an, because the next round is the online one. It's a major mega event. And Yunho and Hee Jung both compete in the major series too. Will they be able to give enough time to the Radical SR8s? Will we see just a driver that's competing only in the junior championship come out there and trump both these guys? I think that's a very realistic possibility, Connery.
Yeah, it is certainly within the realms of possibility, and I got to say, great job from largely everyone there in the Junior Cup race for trying to keep things together somewhat. Of course, we had that fantastic battle for the race win at the very end. Of course, there's always these outside factors, these factors the drivers can't control when it comes to the traffic, when it comes to certain slipstream situations. And sometimes it all goes your way, and sometimes it doesn't. I think that's the duality of racing there, Sumil.
Yeah, that's so true, and really intrigued me that they were all not bunched up together. They were not all in one pack, which meant that eventually at the final lap, we could see lapped cars basically not giving a chance to Yunho Park to get ahead of Hee Jung-an, right? That's eventually what happened. We had 3 lap cars, 2 on the side, 1 up ahead, and it became a major problem for him. So eventually that sort of pace gap between the top and the bottom drivers eventually was the thing that cost Yunho Park somewhat his race win and at the end. And he could have had a chance, did not quite work out. I don't think he will be thinking too much about it. He'll be like, yeah, it's a one-off. It's all right. I tried, didn't quite get it. I already have 2 wins under my belt and a significant gap in the championship. Okay, what's next? Next up is the major race in the AMX ESPORTS Championship. Let me prepare for that. This one, I don't think P2 is too bad. That's what Yunho should be ideally thinking. But again, you can never go into the mentality of a driver and understand what they're thinking, because each person, of course, very different to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said during the race, no driver comes into a race thinking, I'm going to go for P2. Like no driver thinks about that. They want the race win, even if it's a championship sort of situation where finishing P2 is just enough. There's that allure, there's that attraction to a race win that some people just can't really get out of their heads, and as a result, some drivers overdrive themselves trying to go for that. Whereas perhaps a more reasonable decision would be to remain in position. But we are heading over to the main AMX Esports Championship in just a couple of moments' time, about half an hour, in fact, as we'll be heading into the qualifying session then. So we got a little bit of time to kill here, Sumo, though. But just before we go to a little bit of a commercial break and a little bit of a countdown clock, what are your initial expectations here for the race at the Nürburgring?
That's a good question. I think cleanliness, because in the influencer and the sim driver race that we've had so far, there were accidents. The sim race being a lot cleaner than the influencer one. Of course, that's a given. They've had more time on the game. So not the game. It's not a game. It's a simulator. Having more time on the simulator so far. But the real world drivers, right? They know exactly what they're doing. Many of them competing in championships like Korea's Premier Touring Car Championship and the like. So they know what they're doing, right? Many of them international racing stars as well. So you can experience and you can expect that sort of calmness from them and that sort of judgment where they only make moves when it's expected. So the race, let's just say they might not have as much chaos and as much pandemonium, but the moves, they're going to be few, but they are going to be very entertaining to watch. That's my take on the race that's going to come up. And I've been waiting for this one right from the very start. I can't wait to see what a spec BMW M4 GT3 race actually looks like and feels like at the Nürburgring.
I expect this race to be absolutely fantastic. We got some we've got some decent iRating drivers in this. Of course, some of the real-life drivers have gotten themselves on iRacing actually pretty early on as well. So a lot of them won't be too new coming into this. They'll know how iRacing is raced and what the differences are compared to the real world. But before we get into that particular in-depth topic, we'll have to take a little bit of a short break here on the English stream to show you some messages from our partners and to get ourselves ready and set for what is looking to be an absolutely fantastic AMX Esports Championship event. We'll see you in a bit.
미쉐린, 미식의 길을 안내하다. Michelin, Motion for Life.
going till there ain't nothing. Keep the flame on max. I'ma keep it going till there ain't none of that. Going till there ain't nothing. Keep the flame on max. I'ma keep it going till there ain't none of that. Going till there ain't nothing. Keep the flame on max. Keep the flame on max.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the AMX Esports Championship. We had an enthralling event at Charlotte Oval with the Junior Cup Radical SR8, but now we head to perhaps the home of German auto racing in the BMW M8, quite fitting for this BMW M4 GT3, excuse me, as I get my car makes and models mixed up. Again, still quite fitting for this circuit, as you can see those BMW banners across the starting gantry there. We are ready and set to go racing here with the real-life drivers here, our third category of drivers for the AMX Esports Championship. We've had the sim drivers, we've had the influencer drivers, and now the real drivers take themselves to the circuit in just a couple of moments' time for qualifying. But Sumel, I say real-life drivers, but a lot of these drivers got their start in racing by doing sim racing, so they will not be concerned about having to try to adapt to iRacing. They're going to be 100% used to it.
Exactly. One of those examples could be Youngchan Kim for DCT Racing as well. Started out in the world of esports, now going to drive in the GT1 touring car category for Miras DCT Racing. So many drivers like this one, Connery, coming out here. And this is just their playground today. They've been on the iRacing service for long. They know what it's like. They know what the Nürburgring GT circuit is like. And for them, this is going to be the best place to be in. But it won't be too comfortable because the competition is full of real-world racing drivers, let's say, who may not have been on sims for far too long, but they carry that sort of experience all the way in. And that racecraft, which some drivers may lack. I think this race, in terms of pure quality, is going to be the best one we've had so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be, again, I'm pretty optimistic for this race, considering we have a lot of experienced drivers on iRacing here. We've got Gyomin Kim and Youngchan Kim, you know, of course, old rivalry in other platforms and other sims, but it's coming into iRacing. They both have 6,000 iRating, 5,000 iRating, A licenses, B licenses, so they are very, very experienced here on iRacing. A couple of drivers further down the field, Jinsu Kim, Jungwoo Lee, also quite high there in terms of the iRating as well. So the very front of this field has the potential to be very, very close indeed, and hopefully we'll get to see some fair racing as well.
I think we are going to see that sort of fair racing right here. Nürburgring is the circuit that allows you to do so. It's wide enough, and it was built for that very purpose, right? It was built in 1984. For these old Formula 1 cars, they were wide beasts, by the way, to help them race as much as, let's just say, they couldn't do at the Nordschleife. And it was a major success. We know this track. We love this circuit over the years. And this is just the best place to race your TCR, not the TCR cars, but the GT3 machines right here, right? There's a car slip up for both of us right now on the commentary box here today. But eventually, this circuit offers you so many opportunities to go ahead and race. Knowing these drivers, knowing their caliber, knowing the circuit on offer, and knowing that it's GT3 cars, I think it's going to be a very interesting race. It may not be as chaotic as all the other ones, but let's just say you don't quite need chaotic all the time, right? You have to calm down and simmer down a little bit. This race might offer just that.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one that made a mistake with the car make and model. I think I kind of triggered you into doing that as well. But yeah, in this one, of course, again, we have open qualifying, which is not usually done on iRacing. It's done in leagues for sure, but on official racing, it's all lone qualifying. So that comes with its different sorts of intricacies in terms of having to deal with lap traffic and dealing with out and in laps and things like that. But again, these are all things that happen in the real world. So these drivers will be very experienced with regards to that. I think there'll be a lot more, I would say, respectful of each other's space than both the influencers and the sim drivers were. Because I guess in real life, you have that fear factor of, if you make contact, you're going to have a pretty big shunt and you're going to potentially hurt yourself. But I think there's certainly an element of that might carry into this as well, where the drivers know and have raced each other for so long that they're able to give each other racing room.
Yeah, it's one common thing that you'll notice when you speak to as many real-world racing drivers who have come to the sim so far, all of them having a similar take. They say that they end up being a little more cautious, perhaps sometimes a bit too cautious, because they have to give that sort of racing room in real life. If you don't give that racing room in real life, what's the worst that could happen, you ask? Thousands of dollars worth of damage on your car, or pounds, depending on whatever your currency is for that matter. Then you could end up with injuries for that matter. That is a major consequence that you have to keep in mind. Can I say bollocking from your team principal? There's going to be that. A few heated words from the other rivals and on the track as well. All of this sort of stuff. But in the sim, the worst that can happen is lost pride, lost points, a bit of arguments with the drivers that you've made contact with, nothing more. At least there's not that physical harm and that harm to your wallet. And so sim drivers usually tend to be a bit more aggressive, which is why sometimes when you put all of them together, the real world races might just be a bit too conservative. But when you spend ample of time, when you've been on the service for far too long, say someone like a Mitchell de Jong, say someone like Max Verstappen, they know what it's exactly like right now. They're just enough conservative, not too aggressive, not too conservative. It's that mix that they have to find, and that only comes with more track time on the service.
Yeah, it really does. And, of course, big shout-outs to Tyler Goff in the chat, who I believe has got himself a new job in sim racing with Overtake, I believe it was. So congratulations there. As we look forward to seeing you on things like the Nitro Nights podcast and things like that. So that's absolutely fantastic stuff. Great opportunity there in Berlin. But less about that, more about this. Of course, I just really can't wait to get this started in a way, because we've got already established storylines. We've got the rivalry between Young Chan and Guy Min. We've got the situation where DCT e-racing, just sort of in general, has been doing very, very well so far this season, and we'll see if they can carry that sort of momentum into this event as well. Of course, they are basically the biggest sim racing team in Korea, but the likes of Team BTC and a couple of others, they could potentially rise to the occasion and give them a good challenge here towards the end of the first online portion of the season.
So what I'd like to look at this race is like, this is the one where you need the most certain results. So it's like the influencer race is the wild card. You never know which way it's going to go all the time. So you need consistent performances from your sim drivers and from the real world races, even more so from the real world ones, because they supposedly are the team leaders. They bring the most experience in. Sure, they might not be aware of the intricacies, at times that is, of the simulator, but largely they know exactly what they're doing. So you need a reliable performance from your real world driver. This is the one event you cannot fail, where you have to put all your money into it. That's why this is going to be so much fun. All the weight is resting on their shoulders, on the shoulders of the real world drivers. And let's just say they're used to it, because they're used to a lot more pressure in the real world. When you've got pressure of, if I crash my car, I'll have to pay damages. If I crash my car, I could be injured. That sort of stuff is out of the way. They can purely focus on the competitive side. And I think that should be a great liberator, Connery. I think that should mean that we get to see some more intense driving from them. At least not too cautious. At least they can go out there and be free in their approach. If not crash necessarily, but still try their best. Give 100% instead of driving at 95.
So you can see there's the championship standings at the moment. Of course, we mentioned DCT Racing getting off to a good start here, but that influencer race kind of changed things somewhat for DCT, considering Team BTC get themselves towards the top of the order. We've got Ulsan, DR Motorsports, and Atlas up there as well. Atlas actually tied with DCT Racing for P3 there. So things still very much undecided here coming into round number 3, and of course, given it is such a long season, that is to be expected. But I get the feeling in rounds like this, where it's both the sim driver events and the real life driver events, I think that's where DCT are going to really come into their own with the quality of drivers that they have.
Yeah, they really do. All their drivers in the sim side and the real world side are very good, but BTC have made the most of it. That wildcard performance that they got in the influencer race is what puts them up in P1 right now, which is what you have to do. As I mentioned early on, you need your real world drivers and your sim drivers to perform. Anything apart from that is just a bonus. And BTC have benefited big time from them. And eventually, who knows, that bonus might get them a bonus of 0.4 Bitcoin at the end of the season if they end up winning.
Yeah, I think what the story was that their founder, the actual name of Team BTC is Team Beat the Championship. But of course, BTC is the financial code for Bitcoin, right? So it's and the joke is that the founder of the team bought a lot of Bitcoin when it was its most expensive and has kind of lost all of his money. So hopefully he can get at least one Bitcoin back, or at least a portion of a Bitcoin back towards the end of the season.
Exactly. But what I really like is it's good that the series is actually dealing in Bitcoin, right? Many people call cryptocurrency the currency of the future and whatnot. Of course, personal opinions depend. I think it has great potential, but the series is going all in with it. With Midas coming in, helping out with that, so many big sponsors in the championship, everyone very supportive of this motive, and I don't think there's been any other sim racing championship per se, Conrad, that's actually awarded prizes in Bitcoin ever, I think.
I can't remember any, at least. Of course, we've had some interesting prizes before in sim racing. We've had things like you get yourself a test drive with a motorsports team somewhere in the world. And of course, I remember the Porsche Sim Racing Trophy at Sim Racing Expo. It's they got themselves some branded speakers as for winning that, which is
that it?
I would say, yeah, they got some branded speakers, and that was basically it. And I would say BMW is probably doing one better with their championship here, considering, of course, we have Kolon Motors as a sponsor, the biggest Korean BMW dealership, giving a little bit more than a speaker to the winner.
Exactly. Big prizes on offer right here, and one indirect prize that could be an offer as well right here is for some real world drivers, let's say, who may not have had the best of seasons so far, or whose racing career might be interrupted by COVID. If they win this, if they spearhead their team to a victory in a championship like this one, imagine how much credibility that adds to you, right? Because the world of Korean motorsport also coming back to track after COVID has gone past. You're getting to see more races everywhere, getting to see more domestic championships start up. Now, if you end up winning, if you say someone like Youngchan Kim, who's already racing in the GT1 category, coming home with a trophy like this one and getting back to the racetracks, imagine how much confidence first you can bring up and how much more marketable you can be to sponsors, that you're now in that group of hybrid racers like the likes of Lauren Heinrich, like the likes of Max Verstappen, or even Mitchell de Jong for that matter, who can race professionally both in the sim and in the real world.
Yeah, of course. We've seen that sort of crossover happen so many times before here in sim racing, and it's happened with a lot of these drivers that you're seeing up on screen for you right now. They started on other platforms. They started in other smaller championships, and well, they just get themselves known and get themselves the opportunity to be able to do it for real. But here we go. We are getting the first sets of lap times start to come through here in qualifying. Gyeomin Kim going to the top of the timing sheets for the moment, with Youngchan Kim in P2. And, well, we discussed in the pre-show their rivalry coming into this one. It seems like, at least from the practice times, they're going to be quite close together at the very front of the field as well. But we'll have to see if that actually comes to fruition, and, well, hopefully during the race they can give us a great little battle.
I think that's going to happen. They've been racing with each other, racing against each other as well for so long. This is nice, right? Before the season even begins, we know two drivers are going to go head-to-head with each other. We know what's on stake here. We know that they've got past history as well. It just elevates the competition. Now, Yoon Kim, for that matter, who's actually leading the qualifying session that you're seeing on screen right now, known as Volt Kim, and he's actually one of the most famous sim racing drivers in Korea. Many are not surprised that he's up in P1, but there are other competitors as well, Conry. Too close. And in GT3, sometimes there can be a bit of a gap between the field because it's a car that actually exposes you as a driver, makes you really work hard for it. But so far, I think it's still quite good. It's the real race pace where it matters, because here, if your race pace is good, moves can be made.
They really can, especially down in towards turn number 1. That is basically your biggest overtaking opportunity, but it's not the most simple one. You would have thought you just stick it down the inside there and jobs are good and you're ahead. But no, just because of how that sector 1 is laid out through the arena section, if you're able to hang it around the outside through turn number 1, you'll have the inside line for both turn 2 and turn 3 as well. Yep. So you can get that position defended. Or you can go aggressive around the outside and do the same as well and trying to complete the pass into turn 3. So yeah, that's one of the main action zones, I would say, for the upcoming races. But you know, there are plenty of other places on this track that could see some action as well, in particular up into the NGK chicane at the very end of the lap. And you've also got the move down in towards Dunlop as well in the middle of the lap. Although, given that we're sponsored by Michelin, we probably shouldn't mention that.
Exactly. And quick word on turn number 1. It is amazingly well built. The way they've just managed to inculcate the descent at turn number 1 is outstanding. The corner turns in on you, in fact. You can't just stick to the inside line. There's one place where when the track dips, the racing line also shifts a little bit, so you have to make that marginal steering movement. And if you're just a bit too much on the inside, you could be cutting that corner and becoming a glorified pinball, basically. So that's what could happen at the very start as well. But it leads straight onto the arena section, and I hate it. I hate it because I'm not good enough to take it well. Requires so much as a driver to stay at the right line to keep the car together. Very low speed, high grip sort of corner where the driver differences really come to perspective. If you can nail it there, that's a big chunk of your lap time won back. And eventually you can line up big moves, let's say right here at the backstretch. And word on the backstretch as well, Colin. We're using the bad chicane, the less fluey one, but it at least offers us more overtaking for that matter.
Well, it said Grand Prix layer, and we have to use the one that you use in the Formula 1 Grand Prix, so it's the tight chicane. It is then, you have to be very careful of those curbs on both apexes there, because they can very, very much upset the car. They are very, very tall curbs indeed, and you just have to be very, very careful. And hopefully we don't see too much curb hopping during the actual race, but we've only got 2 minutes of qualifying left here with Guy Moon Kim, up in P1 with Young Chan Kim P2 at the moment. 0.3 of a second between those two drivers here. And, well, it was a little bit closer in the practice times, but we got to see this driver as well, Jong Kyum Kim, very, very close to the front runners as well. He's about 1.5 of a second off of the P2 time.
Very, very interesting. Things are going to get closer as well. And the Atlas BX team, Conry, finding themselves at the very top once again. It's good. Only a minute left. Will we get another major lap time in qualifying? I really doubt it, because this car's window, let's say, it comes up to lap 2 or lap 3 where you get the best possible lap time. But let's see, with a minute left to go, who can do a better one.
Yeah, this outlap won't be possible. Remember, if you since this is the heat racing system, you won't be able to complete a qualifying lap when time expires, and I think that's what a couple of drivers have actually mistimed at the moment, because you know, it was detailed in the driver's briefing, so they can't use the excuse of they didn't know about it. It was told in the driver's briefing, and I assume told in the actual meeting before the event as well. Yun Chan Kim looks like he's got a good thing going on here as he heads his way up through the Michael Schumacher S. and then up towards the sort of final sector of the lap, I would say. Through the left and then through towards the right. Got a little bit of got a car ahead of him, not going to be impeding him too much. In fact, it might even benefit him a little bit with the slipstream.
Exactly, this might be helping him out right here, heading down towards the final chicane. Good enough for Young Chan right now. Seems to be carrying good momentum, and this corner matters, right? It may not help out with the flow as much, but if you cut it just slightly, you can get a good run, and he's backed off. Huh?
Abandoned the lap, and he would have struggled to get through regardless, given that is the session over and done with. We'll get the transition in towards the starting grid here. So the grid is set for the sprint race here at the Nürburgring for the AMX Esports Championship. Let's take a look at how they will line up. Gaimin Kim in P1 with Youngchan Kim in P2. It's a front row lockout for the DCT E-Racing folks. Of course, one's DCT E-Racing, one's DCT Racing. Then you have an Atlas BX car in P3 with Jong-Yum Kim with Team PS31 in P number 4 there with Jung-So Kim. Team BTC with Jungwo Lee in P5, Jin-So Kim in P6 here today, at least to start the sprint race. Sang-Jin Lee and Dong-Yu Kim line up P7, P8, Jong-Shu Lee and Jae-Mo Go in P9 and 10 respectively. P11 goes to Hyunjin Jang, and Stephen Cho lines up in P number 12. We've got a full 20 cars to run through here, Sumil. We've got Sung-Young Kang, Jae-Bin Lee, Min-Jae Kang, and Shin Hung Kang down to P16 here today. And then those last couple of drivers on the starting grid, well, we've got the final row there, Jae-Joon and Yun-Sub Jong in P number 20
yes,
there.
perfect.
Yes, we got it. We got there, Sumil. We got there. As we will transition over into the actual race coverage in a couple of moments. Of course, drivers will be lining up sort of partially through the lap here. We'll only get that final sector, and then we'll be able to go green flag racing. But start's going to be crucial here, Sumil, considering it's Nürburgring, turn number 1, and technically 2 and 3, where a lot of action can happen on the first lap, and a lot of things can swing one way and then instantly the other.
Absolutely. This track, let's say the ups and downs are not just in the hills of the circuit, not just in the way the circuit characteristics are. It can also lead to lots of ups and downs in the racing as well for so many drivers. It's a track that allows you to catch up. It's a track that rewards quality driving, which is what we are going to see right here. I hope that this ends up being the race that we have built it up to be, and knowing the drivers, I think that is a very realistic possibility. It'd be fun. I am keen to see which way it goes. And finally, Conry, first time I think we're getting to see a spec M4 GT3 competitive race in many, many months. This is going to be very interesting indeed.
Incredibly interesting, and hopefully a whole bunch of fun as well, as you see those two red DCT E-Racing cars head their way through the NGK chicane, then into the Coca-Cola curve to start this event. Gaimin Kim and Youngchan Kim, those are the two drivers at the very front. It's go on green, remember. They can't dictate the race start before the green flag comes out. And now we'll get ourselves ready to go racing here for round number 3 of the AMX Esports Championship at the Nürburgring. It's a very long hold before we see the green flag here. And now we can go racing. Now they can fan out. Now they can go door to door, all the way down in towards turn number 1. It's been a big crash at the back though. Multiple drivers involved. Jae-Joon, Yun-Sub, Moojin Chan, and both DCT cars, both of the cars in the front row slide through turn 1. That is an absolute nightmare for DCT.
What in the world has happened here? The DCT cars slap bang in the middle of the field. This is not what we expected at all. But turn number 1 at the Nürburgring, catching so many drivers out. And Conry, even before we went green, remember the corridor of uncertainty that I mentioned early on, where drivers are not sure whether the drivers up ahead are going or not? That caught out so many drivers.
It was a very long hold. Let's see exactly what happened to those two DCT cars. Oh, They weren't. It wasn't a mistake from them. It was the Atlas BX car that was in third place that came too hot into that one and just basically plowed into both of them. It was Jong Kyung Kim, I believe it was, that got a little bit too hot into turn one and took out both DCTE racing cars. Let's take a look at the onboard with Jong Kyung Kim's Atlas BX car.
What has he done right here? Is it a mistake too costly? He might get a penalty. Of course, he will get a penalty for that one. And I don't like to point out penalty incidents black and white, but that is so clear, right? Jong Kyung Kim missing his braking marker and careering into not one, but two DCD cars. So there's this common phrase in Hindi that says, you hit one shot, you take out two targets. It's pretty much that. Does not have the same feel to it as I say it in English, but you get the idea, right? But he will be getting a penalty sometime soon. The stewards, well, let's say they'll be having a very dim view of that incident.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for the investigation. It's a very similar phrase, though, that Sumil, to kill two birds with one stone is the
It's not
is
the same
phrase
feeling,
in English.
though. Always with the regional language, you sort of get that more of a charm of it. Or whatever. You get the idea.
Coming across the line to complete the first lap, though, Jong Kyung Kim, race leader at the moment, but of course under investigation due to that incident coming down in towards turn number one. We've got Jung Woo Lee and Dong Yu Kim, P2 and P3 at the moment, very close between those two drivers, heading their way through the first sector with this fantastic sort of spider cam, heading their way through there. We had a little bit of battling a little bit further back as well. This is involving the drivers of Go Jae Mo, Gaiman Kim and Lee Chung Ho Lee as well. So those drivers deciding to really scrap it out. And remember, Gaiman Kim is on a recovery drive now in that DCTE racing car.
He has to climb up so many positions. And it's going to be tricky because there's some really good drivers in the middle, right? When we say that the drivers will leave enough space, it is in this part. It's in this part of the race where they know exactly what they're doing. Starts in sim racing there, they can be a bit tricky at times, but now the challenge is real for all the drivers that have lost positions, especially Gilman right there, just after that major crash at the start. This is going to be fun at this stage now.
Yeah, I mean, he's already, well, the position ahead of him is reverse grid pole position. So Jae Go is currently in reverse grid pole position. So if Gaiman Kim can get past him, then he's looking good for the main race. So he can gain the lion's share of the points. Well, he's tried to gain the lion's share of the points when it comes to that particular event. This is a very similar sort of situation, speaking of DCT cars, to what Yunho Park had in the sim event as our first round. He had a horrible sprint race. He was able to get up into, well, not reverse grid pole position, but reverse grid second place, I believe it was, and was able to drive away from the rest of the field. I think that's what the objective has to be now for Gaiman.
I saw something very similar in the Norwegian National Sim Racing Championship as well. Many drivers taking advantage of that, having a poor sprint race, but qualifying in reverse grid pole, and now he swoops right in to get that position. It should work. Should he go ahead? Should he grab more points in the sprint race? He could, but there's a bigger incentive to stay where he is and rely on his driving quality to defend all the positions up in the feature race. I think for Guman right now, E8 is the best place in the world. In fact, it's a blessing in disguise of sorts.
I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he tries to get up into P7 here. That's a couple more points, and he also still starts front row in the actual main race. So that's the task right now for the driver of the number 12 car that you see right there on the screen. Let's have a look back elsewhere, though. The front of the field, there is the leading trio with Chong Kyung Kim, Jung Woo Lee, and Dong Yu Kim. P1, 2, 3 at the moment. But remember, we still have that active stewards investigation about what's going to happen with that number 9 car.
Yeah, I don't think it's an investigation at all. I think that was a clear-cut penalty, unfortunately. But it happens. It's turn number 1 at the Nürburgring. Let's be honest, if you've driven right here, you have made that sort of mistake, right? And sometimes the pressure of the opening lap can get to you. It can leave you in a tunnel vision where you just end up missing a braking marker out of all the excitement, all the worry that you're getting into. So that's definitely one thing. But will the DCT drivers, be consolable at all? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to accept anything like that. They'll be like, just ruin my race. Whatever happened to you happened to you. should have left me aside, but that's just turn number one. You end up being just a bowling pin right there when somebody's not in the right mood.
We do have already a decision come through, not with Jong Kyung Kim, but with the driver of Min Jae Kang. As a drive-through penalty for, I believe it was causing that incident at the very back of the field at the very start, I believe that one was. But we're still waiting for a decision with regards to what would affect the race leader at the moment. But Jungwoo Lee is really driving the wheels off that thing at the moment. He's caught up to right up to the rear bumper of your race leader, and now potentially he might be looking to make a move.
Potentially, that could be coming in at the chicane at the back. That is the NGK chicane. They've changed the name quite a fair bit of that one, but the idea is quite simple. It's a no-nonsense chicane, that one. Not really the most flowing one in the world. Yeah, call it what you want to. Many people have called it a few harsh things over the years, but it delivers all the time, Conrad. It delivers in providing a sure shot overtaking opportunity. All that you have to do is line up a good run after the Warsteiner curve, which comes in a couple of corners. So is Jungwoo Lee going to do exactly that one? Well, Jungwoo is going to use his GT Academy experience fighter to get something right this done.
Yeah, possibly. You can see those are the team representatives on the left-hand side there. So you can see Jong Kyung Kim from Atlas BX leads this race. You can see P2 for Team BTC there. And of course, Dong-Gyu Kim there with E-Euro in the P3. But you can see the gaggle of DCT cars, P6, 7, 8 at the moment. So if they were to finish where they were now, well, they will be, well, front three lockout in terms of the starting grid for the main race.
Exactly. That is going to be crazy.
Jungwoo
yeah,
Lee.
Jungwoo Lee in the pit lane. Now, what has happened here to Jungwoo? No damages, remember? So, must be a penalty of some sort.
He got a drive-through penalty. We'll have to...
And if I remember correctly, he was involved in one of the accidents at the first lap.
Yeah, he might have been. So, yeah, we'll have to look into that, in fact, because if Jungwoo Lee comes down towards the pit lane here and just gets his drive-through penalty served, it's going to be dropping him back down past this gaggle of cars here. And, well, at least he's got the train of cars ahead to try and focus on, but now he's down in P16, whereas it was P2 for him before that.
And imagine how it feels like as a driver, right? You're driving constantly at speeds of over 175 kilometers per hour, faster corners, over 200.
Ooh.
And then there's this. What's happened to Stephen Cho here?
Stephen Cho having a couple of problems getting out into the gravel there. Let's take a look at to see what has happened. I think this might have been down in towards turn number 1 here, which is probably one of the main spots for a bit of trouble at this racetrack because it's such a heavy braking zone. If you leave it a little bit too late, then he gets on the grass. Big impact. Yeah, that's one thing to learn about iRacing. It really doesn't like you dipping 2 tires into grass.
It's not grass, it's ice on iRacing. That's what it is. And for Stephen Cho, just the slightest bit of touch, right? That was enough to take him all the way from being straight into being turned upside down and side by side, whatever you'd like to call it. He was not in a good position right there. And the M4, well, it won't be battered and bruised, but certainly the driver behind the wheel would be mentally. So coming back from that is going to be very hard. And coming to the drive-through penalty as well, Conrad. When you're driving at those high speeds, when you're going flat out through every single corner, imagine how excruciating a drive-through penalty feels like, especially when you're in the top 3. That must feel like the world is going past you and you're driving at 0.25 speed or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see this string of cars now all the way down the pit straight. So everyone's kept each other relatively close over the course of this sprint race. We're inside the final 5 minutes now. And, well, we're just watching and waiting and trying to see if the battles will develop. There's sort of more slight battling a little bit deeper in the pack here. Here's the battle for position number 12 up on screen with Moojin Kim and Jungwoo Lee. Jungwoo Lee looking for the big dive towards the inside, and Moojin Kim has to be careful. He's going to get mugged on the inside once again here, but he's able to cover it off.
Good battle right here, and that's in the midfield. Remember, they're gunning to make sure that they get somewhere close to P number 8 because that would guarantee them reverse grid pole position. But even if they're not close enough, which seems to be the case, they're fighting a bit too hard because the qualifying positions for the feature race matter. And if these guys stay where they are in the feature race, and when the intensity levels of the points will be higher, you're going to get to see this and then more. This is so incredible to watch. And using that arena section to perfection, Moojin Kim right there, blocking off just the right lines, Connery. Something tells me he's been here. He's been driven here. He's been driving here quite a lot more than the other guys.
Jae-bin Lee looking around the outside, and there, down the inside, down to the inside there, Chanjun Lee. Fantastic move, just to capitalize on everything that was going on ahead of him. That was absolutely brilliant. Well, it's worthy of a replay here because you can see with the onboard camera, he just sees the gap open up on the inside and he just goes for it.
Exactly, this is such opportunistic racing from Chanjun Lee right here. Look at how late he breaks up. And the door opens and he just puts one foot through it and says, right, is that for me? I'll take it any which ways. And the low racing car moves up a position.
It does indeed. So the mid-pack battles continue here as, well, there's multiple places to look at the moment if you want to see battles. This is the one for P13 between Moojin Kim and Jae-bin Lee. Very close through the Coca-Cola curve, and then of course you've got a gaggle of cars behind them as well. But we do have to keep an eye on the battle for P2 though, because that might potentially change and change very quickly as they're within ooh, what's happened to Sang-Jin Lee? He's down on towards pit lane. Is that a penalty? Yes, it is.
Ah, that is interesting. I don't remember the DCT car causing anything, but that might be something that we missed. And again, there were so many things happening. Things were going at 1,000 miles per hour at the first lap, so it is quite possible that something may have happened to the second DCT car and we might have missed it. But still at the top, Dongyu Kim doing a good job right now. And what I like so far is that they're recognizing in the top 8 corner that you need to move quite a lot, right? They're fine where they are. All that they need to do in this sprint race is gather some points and make sure that you are in the prime position for the feature race, which is quite nice to see. And you kind of expected this, right? It's the real world drivers. They are more sane. And in terms of driving quality, in terms of raw pace, yeah, sometimes they might be slower than the sim drivers, but it's that state of mind that they carry from the real world, which is what matters right now. And they're showing it to perfection here.
Yeah, they really are. And, well, as we watch this battle for P2 start to tighten up, they are fighting a little bit further back, though. This is the battle for P12 out there with Shin Hong Kang, Jae-bin Lee, Yeon Sub Jong also involved in this as well. Oh, Moojin Kim straight into the back of Yeon Sub there and spins him out towards the outside and into the runoff. And, well, that was an over-eager move, I would say.
Yeah, that was not the best place in the world to make a move. That's why the pros don't quite do it right there. They wait for the chicane. And what happened was he saw the chance, right? He made a mistake right there. Could have been a chance. And the swerving, you can see the aggression on offer. Listen, I think Moojin just turned under the braking marker, under the braking zone, which is not quite what you should do. You should go straight in and then turn on. I think that is what caused the accident. A bit unlike what a real world driver would usually tend to do, but hey, mistakes happen, right? It's only natural.
So we are on the final lap here, and at least currently, Jongkyung Kim has gotten away with not getting a penalty at the moment. We'll have a look back at that lap 1 incident after the race here during our little 5-minute break, because I do want to take another look at it to see if there was something that we did indeed miss, and the stewards have spotted that absolves the number 9 of any responsibility. But 10 seconds left in the remaining in the race then, and soon we'll see that checkered flag out there. This is the final lap, of course. Jongkyung Kim leads by 1.7 seconds at the moment for the Atlas BX car. And then, of course, you have this Euro car piloted by Dongyu Kim in P2 and Hyun Jin Jang there in P3 for DR Mighty. So no DCT representatives inside of the top 3 here. That's not what we expected to see at the end of the sprint race. But now up in towards the NGK chicane for the final time. There's the man of the moment. A little bit of controversy in the opening lap, opening corner of the event, but it is Jong Kyum Kim for Atlas BX Esports coming across the line, flashing the lights. He's certainly very happy about his performance. And Jung Kyum Kim picks up the sprint race win, the first for Atlas BX.
Regardless of what you say about the first lap incident, what you can say about Jong Kyum Kim is that he held on to it quite well. Good, calm racing after that. Again, a steward's review of that is pending, but what I really loved about this race, Conrad, apart from the first lap, is that every single driver drove like a pro later on. Not many major accidents apart from turn number 1, which is inevitable, right? Turn number 1 always happens, but this is just a very good precursor to the final race that we're going to get here, because now that they've learned from their mistakes, now that they know exactly what they've done wrong, they can look at going out there and proving why they are the team leaders in each of their teams. A good, enthralling battle should be coming up next.
It should well be. So we'll get the the cool down period here after the sprint race. We'll go through your unofficial race results here in just a couple of seconds time, but my word, what a great race in the mid-pack. We didn't see too much action there at the very front, but maybe we'll get to see that in the main race here today. There's the unofficial race results from the sprint race with Jong Kyum Kim and Dongyu Kim, P1, P2, with Hyunjun Jang in P number 3. So Atlas BX, Euro, DR Mighty, all very happy with podium finishes at the end of the sprint race. It's Gyu-Min Kim in P4 there after starting on the front row, able to recover up into P4, and same with Young Chan Kim. So that was your front row there that had that incident down in towards turn number 1. They recover to P4 and 5 respectively. Sung Young Kang in P6 with JMO Go P7. Chong Cho Lee is your reverse grid pole position sitter. Jinsu Kim in P9 with Jung-So Kim in P10 here today. Then the bottom half of the field, Jungwoo Lee, Jae-Bin Lee, Shin Hong Kang, Chan Jun Lee, Sang-Jin Lee down to P15 today in the sprint race. Moo-Jin Kim in P16, Min-Jae Kang P17, Yun-Sub Jung in P18, Stephen Cho 19th, and Jae Joan in P20 here today as your only retirement. So, before we get into the details of talking about what's going to happen here in the main event, I'm just going to try and cycle things back just a little bit here to that initial start, because I do want to take a look at exactly what happened there at the very start of the event. So here's the view of it. We'll get to see the view from up above here. Does Jong Kyum Kim get any contact from behind? I'm wondering. A little bit. And that might have just been enough for the stewards to say, well, Jong Kyum is not really responsible for that incident, and instead we got to penalize another driver. We got to see, it was the 21 I'm just trying to find him. It was the driver behind that was responsible for that one there, Suville. And it's kind of surprising considering, on first appearance, that looks like the number 9's overcommitted. It's the 24 there. So that is the driver of Jungwoo Lee. So we saw him, we did see him take a drive-through penalty as well. Let's take the onboard with him into turn 1, in fact, just so we can get a little bit of a better view.
Coming up, Dongyu Kim is in the... And Dongyu Kim got a driver's eye, the bird's eye view for that. Not the bird's eye view, the best view in the seat. You know what I'm talking about. It's been a long day, whatever. But this is the exact view of this one. This is where we see the accident from Jungwoo Lee's perspective. And this is the leading car, remember, Team BTC in the championship leading up and just missing his mark, as simple as that. And it's hard to judge, right? When you're coming into turn number 1 where there's so many cars around you, it's always hard to judge where your braking point is, because you can't always see a marker because there are so many cars around you. Maybe that could have been the thing, because your braking marker at turn number 1 is on the left-hand side. And for Jungwoo Kim, there were already a couple of cars on the left, so he couldn't quite see it. But It's lap number one. You've had experience. Lap number one is always braking on your instinct. You can't brake looking at the braking markers. You have to brake earlier than what the other guys are doing. So be it if you lose a position, at least you have to keep it clean. In that case, maybe try to go a little bit too aggressive, maybe brake 10 odd meters a bit too late, and eventually ended up causing that major accident. So, well-deserved win right there for the number 9. It's a big one for Team Atlas BX, this one.
Yeah, absolutely huge. But then again, we got that top 8 reverse grid. So now DCT will be in a little bit of a better position now to try and go forward after this reverse grid. But remember, those drivers that finished at the very front in the sprint race today, they will be hot on their heels trying to get their way through. And remember, if you have maybe slower drivers, less experienced drivers in sim racing at the very front, that might promote a couple more incidents that might happen ahead of the front runners in the championship, which just throws everything out, and we don't know what's going on.
That's just the beauty of the AMX ESPORTS Championship, and having a reverse grid ride mixes it up, adds a little bit more spice to it all the way through. And it somewhat is a blessing in disguise for the Team DCT, right? They got wrecked out at the start, but getting P8, that is so critical. Just being on that front row for the all-critical feature race is a tactic that's age-old. It may be dull, it may be overused, but it's one that works. That's why many drivers prefer it. I think they're in for a good one, because we saw throughout the race, Conray, that the overtakes were a bit limited in nature when we came to the mid part of the race, right? And that just may favor DCT in this one.
It might just do exactly that. Time has expired in the warm-up session. We'll be able to get our starting grid for the feature race up in just a couple of moments. I certainly can't wait for it. Everyone is ready and waiting, and certainly very pumped for what we are about to see in the main event. 30 minutes of racing on the cards here at the Nürburgring for the main event of the AMX Esports Championship. Round number 3 with the real-life drivers. There's the starting grid with Chongwoo Lee in P1. He will get reverse grid pole position. Jaemo Go in P2 here today. Sungyeon Kang P3 with Youngchan Kim in P4. Gyeomun Kim in P5 with Hyunjin Jang in P6 here today. Dongyu Kim in P7 with Jongkyum Kim in P8. So Jongkyum as your race winner, he gets cycled back into P8 to start this main event. Jinso Kim in P9 and Jungso Kim in P10. Jungwoo Lee in P11 with Jaebin Lee in P12 here today. Shin Hong Kang in P13 with Sangjin Lee in 14th. Min Jae Kang in P15 with Yunsob Jong in P16. Stephen Cho starts in P17 with Chan Jun Lee in P18. And the final row of the starting grid here today comprises of Moojin Kim and Jae John. So, drivers already getting themselves taken to the starting grid here. And again, the anticipation is very, very high at this point as they line up just before that right-hand king going up the hill towards the NGK chicane. And, well, this one is potentially going to be maybe a little chaotic, at least on the start, as those reverse grids, those that were on the bad end of the reverse grid, try to work their way through. And let's see if Lee Chong-ho and Jaemo Go and Sungyeon Kang can actually hold on to those top 3 spots after the reverse grid.
It is going to happen that way. You just know that the drivers who finished in the top position in the first race will be fighting back. Why should they not? Ideally, all the cars are closest together in the opening laps. That is your best chance to make a move when everyone is bunched up together. At the same time though, where there is a high reward, there also is a high risk. Can you dare making a move at lap 1? Can you make sure that you make it cleanly and avoid making contact in a situation like that one? It's a hard ask.
It's incredibly difficult, but turn 1's incredibly difficult here. Turn 2, turn 3, trying to go side by side are also pretty hard indeed. You can see them heading their way through the NGK chicane on the formation lap here. Hopefully we don't have as many issues down in towards turn number 1 as we saw on the sprint race, and hopefully we can get a fantastic amount of action here at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. Drivers getting themselves ready to go then. Again, go on green. And that's exactly what Lee Chung-ho is about to do. Waiting for the signal, and he's got the signal to go now. We're feature race racing at the Nürburgring, and we might even see four wide down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Surely this can't work out. Somehow they'll all keep it together. There's a little bit of contact in the mid-pack. They still 4 wide in towards turn number 2 here. This is crazy stuff. Absolutely insane that these guys have been able to keep themselves together here, but there's a little bit of contact further forward. And who's that? That's Jin-Soo Kim. That's gone for a spin at the back end of the arena section.
Someone had to spin out, but the numbers look far more positive than in the first race. The drivers have learned their lesson. Take a look at some aggressive racing going side by side. Over there, whoever goes side by side at that particular corner, Connery, this is some absolutely amazing stuff. And heading down into the hairpin, this gives a realistic chance for someone to execute a block pass. This could be it. Song Yong Kang having a hard task right now.
Sung Young Kang trying to get that move done on the inside, but look at the speed that Dongyu has around the outside. He's able to get the momentum coming up the hill in towards the Michael Schumacher S2x2 into the uphill S section. A car unsettled behind. That was Jae-Mo Go that had a problem, but he was able to hold on to it. But now he's coming under threat from machines behind as well.
Some very interesting stuff going on right here for Jae-Mo Go as well. Exactly as you mentioned, Connery, missing that beat a little bit. And already he has created a bit of a gap, so you can see those sort of packs forming already. Yoo-Min Kim having a very amazing day so far. He was in prime position. Sure, got bumped off in the sprint race, but is in the best position right now. And the more Song Yong Kang, his major rival, and Dong-Yu Kim fight, the easier it becomes for him right now, because it just allows him to use the clean air and to go out there and hit the best possible lap times. This is best possible scenario for him ever.
Yeah, Yoo-Min Kim doing a fantastic job at the very front. There might be a swap for position here as Jae-Mo Go looking down the inside of Sung Yong Kang here. Has he overcommitted there in that PSR car? No, he hasn't. That was a perfectly executed pass into turn 1. He got it stopped for the apex, and there was nothing that the 87 could have done.
Exactly that one. Such a good move by Jae-Mo Go right there. Using the momentum to his advantage, right? You've got to build that up. After the first lap is very, very scrappy. That's the thing in GT racing. You've got to bounce back from it very, very quickly. Got to get in a rhythm as soon as possible. And these guys are real racers. These guys have done it in real life. They know exactly what they are in for. And for Jae-Mo Go, who prefers aggressive driving, that was it. He had to do it, and he did it.
Yep, and that was absolutely perfectly executed there. I do want to cycle things back a little bit more, though, because I want to see how Yoo-Min Kim actually was able to get himself up into P1 so quickly here. We'll take a look at it on the replay here. Here's the race start, at least just for a couple of moments there. Let's get ourselves back onto that one. But look at this, 4 wide. 4 wide. And Yoo-Min Kim goes from, what is that? There's that P4, 5-ish to the front in one move.
I don't even know how he's done that. That was insane stuff. That's how you do it, right? That is what turn 1 should look like. Turn 4, that's a different matter. Crashes happened there. But turn 1 was spectacular. Take a look at this on-board from right in the middle of the pack. And there, they almost had a Schumacher and a barricade. Look at how Yoo-Min Kim just slices his way past. Gets a touch for good measure, but hey, it works out well.
Dongyu, he had an amazing start as well, which is why I focused on him as well. We'll get the view from the perspective of Yoo-Min Kim here, just as he got himself his start. So he basically really opened up for him on the inside here. Look at him. He's just sitting there behind a couple of cars and just times the start perfectly. And there we go. That's what you were talking about with the Ralf Schumacher move towards the pit wall there. Yoo-Min Kim almost got the life squeezed out of him up against the pit wall.
I can only imagine what it must be like to be Yoo-Min Kim at that moment, where you're just squeezed up against the pit wall. You know that you're either going to be a hero or an absolute dud. And then getting a touch from behind. That, I think it's a moment where you might get your heart in your mouth a little bit. Change of underpants? Probably not, but that would be a bit too extreme. But this must be quite something. And just realizing, firstly, you've come out A, alive, B, in the lead, must be a really special feeling for Human right now. Just a perfect place. And it's not that he's made sure to rest on his laurels after that. He's compounded it, Conrad. He's really built upon that. And the 3.6 second gap that he's got right there is a very good example of him using his luck to his advantage, but then adding his skill upon to it to get the perfect package in. Now, can he keep it clean?
Yeah, Human Kim doing an exemplary job, extending the gap back to Youngchan. Youngchan was able to get through on the traffic as well, so now it's a DCT 1-2 at the moment. So that's looking great for them. But now's the situation. Over the next 25 minutes, can Youngchan catch up to his long-term rival? And, oh well, his teammate, but still a rival. I'm just going to say that. But that's the question here. 3.2 seconds. It's possible inside of 24 minutes, I would say, but it would require a lot of effort. So, meanwhile, further back, we do have a bit of fighting, by the way, as we had a good couple of cars just have a bit of a squabble here back in sort of P7 sort of area. There's Chung-Ho Lee and Jung-Soo Kim. Jung-Soo Kim looking to the outside, gets the big wide arc into the corner. What's happening ahead, though? I'm seeing a couple of cars switching for position, and that was that battle right there between Sung-Young Kang and Junwoo Lee. I'm going to rewind that to see exactly what happened.
Yeah, and that is a battle that everyone would love to keep an eye on, right? They're battling for positions in the top 5 right here. Is that a battle? Is that an error? Oh, I know what's happened here. Is that a slowdown penalty?
Oh my words. Jungwoo Lee.
Wow.
Whoa.
And he couldn't capitalize on that. Missed his braking marker. He should have, and he could have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a slowdown penalty for Sung Young Kang right there. He would have easily got it had he kept to the meat and potatoes, the simple stuff. But he just had to do it the risky way. Never works out that way.
It never does. You can see Jungwoo Lee, he dipped 2 tires into the grass as well, which is always super dangerous. You can see he's flashing the lights, and for good reason. You're not allowed to serve a slowdown penalty on the racing line and try and crowd someone out while you're trying to serve a slowdown penalty. So I think the stewards will be looking at that, because I remember we did, I think in one of the Junior Cup races before, have a penalty handed down for someone that actually served a slowdown penalty on the racing line. So it might end up happening again here.
Yeah, that's not very smart, right? When you have a slowdown penalty, you should ideally, again, I use this word ideally quite a lot, because things, sometimes you wish they were ideal, but then again, what is an ideal world, right? So ideally, you should be serving a slowdown penalty outside the racing line, where you don't obstruct somebody. Even more so when you're on a long straight where people can go past you. And when you're heading into a corner like turn number 1, you shouldn't quite do that. Wouldn't, again, words that don't really matter eventually when you see what's happening on the track. It's just that at the end game is he did not quite do it. He could potentially get a penalty for that. Let's see what the stewards have in mind for that one. But kept the position. That's quite good for Sung Young Kang right there. That's the more important thing that he'll be thinking about at this stage.
It's a great battle developing though for P5. Sung Young Kang and Jungwoo Lee now have Chun-Ho Lee and Jung-Soo Kim also involved in this one as well. So a lot of representatives in this battle for P5 at the moment. And Sung Young Kang has done well to hold on. Got kind of lucky that Jungwoo Lee overcooked it down towards turn number 1 when he had that massive moment. But able to hold on for now. But you can see the pressure that Jungwoo is really applying to the rear of that car ahead, especially through those slow speed corners. He's not giving him an inch to breathe, and that's what you have to develop as a driver over the time of the race. You have to just keep up this pressure, because at some point that driver ahead will crack and will make a mistake, and you'll be able to do the easiest pass of your life.
Indeed, yeah, just got to stick at the rear bumper of the car. Keep pressurizing, and it's what I usually say is just pester them, just irritate them as much as they possibly can, so that they don't even want to see your face at the end of the race, because that's how much you've irritated them. That's when you know that you've done a very good job as an attacker. Yeah, sure, it's good to make those bold moves around the outside and just making those really flashy passes, but a good driver can do just that. Here's him here, going to the outside line for this one, and Jungwoo he could have that cutback, Conway. He could use that run heading down into turn 1. There seems to be a realistic chance for that, but he sends it.
Oh, that's a brilliant send, but is there a cutback off the corner for Sung Young Kang? He's been able to get alongside at least a little bit here, across the grid spots, in towards turn number 1. Where is Lee Chong-ho also going to go? Lee Chong-ho looking to the inside on both of them as well, but he'll have to stay in line for now, side by side in the battle for P5, as Jung Woo Lee has to swing it around the outside to get the momentum, and he's been able to hold the position. And now Sung Young Kang has to be looking behind him, because those are two going door to door. Jung Soo Kim on the inside, Lee Chung Ho on the outside, and Jung Soo Kim has been able to get P7 away.
That is some good racing when you know that P7 means a lot for them as well. That's when you know the championship is so big and what it means to all the drivers. So amazing, right? Jung Soo Kim normally working as a race official, never quite driving. But still here, Conway, still up in the top 8 in those really top positions for the PS3-1 team. That is very nice driving, and the way he just executed it to perfection was such a sight eventually. But he's got more. He'll never be satisfied with that. Of course he won't be. You're a racing driver. You always are on the hunt for more.
You really are. These drivers will not give up when there's still positions on the cards and still some side-by-side action to come. That's for certain, and I think that's what the feeling I'm getting from this top 5 train at the moment, consisting of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers. So 5 drivers for the top 5, and hopefully this will develop a little bit more, a little bit further along in the race. But we've got over a third of it done now, coming up towards the halfway point of 15 minutes left to go in a couple of minutes' time. Everything's just sort of starting to bubble along nicely, at least for the very front of the field, and then very much for Gyu-min Kim as well, as he's extended the gap now back to Young Chan up to 3.7 seconds.
Gyu-min Kim right now, it's just the ideal situation. Who wouldn't want to take the brand new M4 GT3 up for a ride right here at the Nürburgring, the home of the circuit where it was delivered and it was designed in the first place? It's good to see him doing just that. But at the back, things are a bit more chaotic. Here's this amazing battle, and the nudging is permanent.
Yeah, they're treating these cars more like touring cars than they are GT3s. But I'm certainly not complaining. TCRs give some fantastic racing, and there's sort of a lot of these drivers do race in sort of TCR, well, that sort of spec of car, not exactly TCRs, but still the sorts of similar machines in the real world as well. So I'm not surprised they've translated that sort of racing style over to this.
Yeah, exactly. So many drivers racing in the GT1 Championship as well. You see the Solite Indigo team actually competing in the GT1 Championship full-time, and Jin-Soo Kim as well. He's a TCR Asia driver for him. Jin-Soo right now in P number 8, as you can see on your screen, defending from Chong-Ho Lee. It's that style coming into play, Conrad. It's that thing that he's been doing literally for such a long time in the real world, just copying it and pasting it onto a different car. And yes, this one is not a front-wheel drive. This one is not as unpredictable on the brakes. Slightly more easier to drive. But when it comes to extracting pace off this car, it is known to be very notorious. And he's doing it quite well, I would say.
Yeah, and a lot of these drivers doing quite well. In fact, we've only had 2 retirements from this race. That's Yun Sub Jong and Stephen Cho that have decided to retire from the events here today. Everyone else still running, so 18 cars of 20 out there at the moment. So pretty good considering, and our rate of attrition has been pretty good. So that's all positive heading into future rounds of the season. Remember, our next event will be the offline event. That will be an entirely different format as well. We'll have a 3-driver team race, we'll have a 2-driver team race, we'll have a solo race as well. Everyone will be on site at the Africa Coliseum in Seoul, South Korea, and that's going to be an entirely different dynamic there, especially when the drivers are having to share the car in their team between the sim driver, the influencer, and the real life driver. They all have the same car, they're all going to have a go in that 3-driver team race, and I'm very interested to see how that turns out.
Seriously, I've been waiting from the very first day to see what that format ends up being like. Because when I saw the introductory video, I was like, this sounds interesting. Just as much as this battle seems interesting right now. Jung-Soo Kim pushing hard for a position on Sung-Young Kang. And the PS3-1 team, Connery, constantly has been up there in terms of pace, but has not quite secured that big result. If Jung-Soo Kim can get it done for them, bingo, this is going to be a huge one for them. Right now in the championship, the Team PS3-1 team find themselves dead last in P number 20. How big would this one be for them?
I mean, yeah, it's not been the greatest first 2 rounds for Team PS3-1, and there's no doubt about that, but you got to start from somewhere, Sunil, and if it just means starting in race number 3, or rather event number 3 of the championship, then you might as well start now, and better now than later in that respect. So great job from Team PS3-1 for getting themselves more solidly up into the points, at least this time around. There's a lot of fighting going on behind, by the way. That's the battle for P13. I believe, no, battle for P14 going on up on your screen for you at the moment. P12, excuse me. I'll get my numbers in the right order eventually, but these guys have been going hammer and tong as well. Is there going to be a move down in towards turn number 1? Well, there was a look, but there was no commitment.
And that's the important differentiator between these drivers and the influencers, right? When you see them holding back, that is what defines a real-world racer. Sure, anyone can push hard, anyone can go for a full send, anyone can drive at 110%. It's holding back at the right moments that matters a lot. And there's Chon Chun Lee trying a different line at the arena section, which is what makes that section so challenging. Because that you've got so many racing lines right there, right? You can go extremely on the inside line, you can go to the outside, cut back in there. It is so hard to find time right there. Chon Chun trying for something that could get him closer to Min Jae, working out eventually. Totally alright, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, it was sort of an overcommitment a little bit there and through the first sector that sort of caused a missed apex, caused a push wide moment, and there could have been in all possibility that the opportunity for Shin Hung to get himself through, but Chan Jun doing very well to be able to make sure that that does not happen in that one. So it's great seeing these sorts of mini battles out there, and we might see one once again here just inside of the top 10, as we'll see the 2 close cars here, at least the battle for P7.
Exactly, midfield, and there's a big slide and a big error. The M4 bites back. The traction control's there, but sometimes that car can just say nope.
Sung-Young Kang making a mistake into the out of the NGK chicane. Let's just have another look at that one to see exactly what went on with that number 87 car through the chicane. Let's have a look. Oh, again, you have to be careful with the curb. That just completely unsettled the car. The amount of second apex curb he took there was just a little bit too much for the car. We'll get to see the onboard.
The GT3 is usually fine with the curbings. It's usually made to attack corners like that one, but when you go a bit too hard, that is where you really cannot make things work out. The car just basically not having enough grip because it was always unstable after the second curve really shook him off. And there, what more can you do apart from then just going for that big save right there, going for the counter stay and holding off your position. Good driving eventually. Not good driving in terms of attacking the curves, but the save eventually was pretty decent. Time lost, and with 11 odd minutes left, I think that does hamper his chances of going for it and getting another move in there.
Yeah, all the chance. I gotta say though, there's been some fantastic liveries out there.
Yeah.
And one of them is this Grit Motorsports car for Min Jae Kang. I'm a fan of coloured wheels, I gotta say, and the green matching with the colour green on the livery, that is chef's kiss. That is great.
Takes a lot to come up with a good matching livery for your tires, and this one just looks good. It looks like they've been designing it. They've been putting some hours into designing, let's just put it that way. Wouldn't be a surprise if a sponsor comes along and says, I want my logo on that beautiful livery right there. And you're right, the way they've matched it with the wheels, quite nice. But now the neon car's under attack.
Yeah, here we go, side by side up in towards the NGK chicane. Chun Lee gets the position done into the chicane. Great move there from the driver of the number 25 car. We'll get the tower pulled up on the left-hand side as well with 10 minutes left to go. Chun up into P11. Well, P10 is probably a little bit too far down the road to be trying to catch before the end of the race by about 3.5 seconds. Never say never, and that was a great move there from Chun to get that done into the chicane. It requires a lot of respect between the two drivers to be able to make that one work.
And more than respect, I think it was just fear in that case. Chun came charging in, and Minji was like, yeah, you can take it, mate. I'm not going to get involved in any scrap right now when the points difference between those positions is just so minor. So better off by letting that position go and not risking it in that case for Chunjay. But for Minji, I'm sorry, but Minji will be fighting back. We know what he's made of. He'll be coming back with 9 minutes to go. There's a good chance that a comeback drive can be staged in and you can do something quite nice. I think the length of the feature races, Connery, genuinely plays more to the hands of the real-world pro drivers because they're usually used to going for longer races, for more 45-minute races that are now long.
Hang on, Sumil. We've had a problem, I believe, with Jung-Woo Lee.
Okay.
Maybe of a technical issue, so we'll cycle things back to see if we can find any status on this driver. But if you see him randomly disappear for Team BTC, then that is it. It seems like he's back in the race though, so he wasn't disconnected long enough to be able to completely drop from the server. But again, it's these sorts of technical issues which you really can't afford to be having, especially for Team BTC, who currently lead the championship.
I think the iRacing UFOs just picked him up for a second, looked at the livery and said, yeah, that's too good a livery not to be on the Earth racing. So they just sent him back right there. But that's the sort of technical issues that we face in the sim racing world. Internet disconnections, and yes, Team BTC are in it, and he's in the right position. So Jung-Woo Lee, thankfully, on the track. I can't say how lead I am.
Sung-Young Kang coming on towards pit lane. Not sure what this is for, considering I don't see him being served a drive-through penalty. So that must have been going over the incident point limit. So if you get 20 incidents here in this event, you will get a drive-through penalty. So whenever we see a drive-through penalty that's not something handed down by the stewards, then that must be that he's gone over the initial incident limit.
Yeah, such a hard thing to do, right, at times, just to keep it clean when so many other drivers are around you. Sung-Young Kang trying a bit too hard, pushing a bit too hard, let's just put it that way, and not working out well for him. So, lesson learnt is what he'll be saying. Understood, right, let me make sure that I don't make these sorts of errors right there in the next round at the Africa Coliseum, which matters so much. So, better to get your mistakes checked off of the checkbox right here early on, because later on in the season, when the stakes are even higher and when the battles are even closer, you do not want to be making those errors right there.
Yeah, you simply can't put a foot wrong in this championship when things could potentially be so close at the end of the season, because we have that sort of wild card of the influencer races. You never quite know how that's going to go for you at any given time, because, you know, it's such an unpredictable portion of the championship. So you have to do your best, and you have to try and push all the time in both of these sim driver and the real life driver races to be able to give yourself a stable platform to go for a championship fight.
Yeah, and imagine, right, if you have built up a good championship lead, let's say something like Team BTC will be doing right now, they've just given themselves that sort of leeway in the major race where they can build upon it and take more risks in the team-based events because they've got a decent lead over everyone else. It's just that sort of advantage that you're building out for yourself by having strong, consistent races early on. But sometimes it just doesn't work that way. That's Jong-Yoon Kim. He won the last race.
What's happened to Jung Kyung? It looked like a big incident at the final corner, in fact. Is it with his teammate? Well, not his teammate, but with the similarly white car diving down the inside. Oh! Yeah, that's not exactly going to work there, is Jung Kyung Kim. We will take another look at it. It was with the number 16 car, which is, let's just see down the order. We'll figure it out. But yeah, let's cycle things back just a little bit further, just to give this a more of a fair assessment, I would say. Coming into the Coca-Cola curve, which isn't usually overtaking opportunity, diving down the inside, gets alongside, bang. Yeah.
When you usually end up having a driver who's not supposedly used to being in the bottom positions, you can end up seeing them being a bit too aggressive in their approach. They just don't want to be there for too long. They just want to get rid of those positions and get higher up. And that leads to desperate moves at times. There was a good example of one.
Yeah, certainly not going to argue with that. Inside of 5 minutes to go, though, so just a handful of laps before we get to see that checkered flag and the end of event number 3 of the AMX Esports Championship. Again, it's been the DCTE Racing show, or DCTE Racing, depending on which team you're talking about. They've been absolutely fantastic at the front of the field. They got themselves a good start. They got themselves to the front. They now run 1-2, and it's happy days for them. But for everyone else, it's been a bit of a cluster, I suppose, as Jung-Soo Kim, I believe, just lost the position over Jin-Soo Kim there through the final couple of corners. So put that team PS31 car down into P7. But still a great race for Team PS31, just trying to get a couple of points on the board at the early point of the season.
Yeah, exactly. When you're dead last, you need these sort of results, and even P7 will do right now for them at this particular stage. So whatever you can get is the situation for them. Let's just hope that they bounce back in the team endurance events, because that is a good place where they can come on there and get some more points over the rest. Now, what is one thing I've noticed very similar between all the races that we've seen so far is that both in the sim race and in the race of the real drivers, one man has just been keeping it so straight, so simple at the top. But there's been these big battles around P4, P5 constantly happening. This time, it was cleaner than what we saw in the sim race, and I am so glad for that. Jaemo Go being attacked by Jungwoo Lee in this stage, Connery, and I think with the way Junmo has been driving, the way his lap time seeming to be looking right now, he's on a charge. He's spent far too long in P5.
Yeah, he doesn't want to hang around, does he? And we'll get to see this potentially great battle for P4 in the dying moments of the race. We've only got a couple of laps to go here at this point, and you can see the dive from Jungwoo Lee down the inside of NGK chicane. He's given the space to work with. Jaemo Go didn't really need to do that, and now they're going to go door to door in towards the final corner. Jungwoo Lee trying to power around the outside, try and carry as much momentum as possible. He'll try and get the drive off the corner now to get the slipstream and the pass done and down in towards turn number 1. This has been a fantastic fight for P4 so far, but how does it end? Jungwoo Lee going to go all the way to the outside here as Jaemo Go had to try and defend to the inside. Little bit of contact through the apex of the corner, but Jaemo stays ahead.
And how? What amazing defending right there by Jaemo Lee in that particular case. And what Jaemo Go has done in that case, he's just allowed Jungwoo Lee to be attacked by Jin-Soo Kim. So in this case, we're gonna have a three-way to the end, Connery now. There's another player in the party. And this one is going to be even harder for Jaemo now. He's dealt with one car. What about 2? And then later, what about 3?
Yeah, absolutely. The more the merrier, at least if you ask me. But this fantastic... well, we've got Jin-Soo Kim involved, like you said. Now looking to the inside. Oh, that's a big move down into the Dunlop hairpin. And look at that underneath. Jin-Soo Kim gets the both of them as they struggle into the gravel.
Why did he have to do it right there? He could have waited a little bit. Again, I wouldn't have been able to do it as well, but what a critical error that might end up being. Could have had one more position, but eventually both the drivers at the top of that pack have been taken out just because of a slight bit of aggression. And that happens on the final lap. Regift for some.
Yeah, Jinsu Kim is laughing all the way to the end of the race now as he picked up those positions. We'll get to see the onboard with him here as you see the two cars ahead make contact. He's going to say, thank you very much. I'm going to slip down the insides and get those positions. There's the contact. 2 free positions for Jinsu. Fantastic stuff and great opportunistic move because he could have also got caught up in that if he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But back to the live pictures then, since this is the start of the final lap. There's Gyumin Kim, who has been solid since lap number 1 here, and he looks to try and take the feature race win for DCTE Racing.
Gyumin Kim, it's just been perfect so far, not putting a single foot wrong. All the others behind him have faltered and failed, they've made their own errors, but he has responded to all the pressure with ease. That's how you drive from the win.
Yeah, remember we've got this battle behind still though, because now Jung-Soo Kim is now knocking on the door of a P4 finish. Remember, he was down in P7 not too long ago. And, you know, bottom of the standings in terms of his team. Now he's looking to try and get up into 4th place, which would be an absolutely fantastic finish there for Jung-Soo. But back towards the very front of the field, because we do have to talk about this man once again. Gyumin Kim, DCTE Racing, what a performance there from both Gyumin and of course the rest of the team as well, to be able to come home with the 1-2 finish that they'll get here at the very end. A bit of lap traffic ahead of Gyumin here, not going to be an issue at all as he'll negotiate those final couple of corners, take the big wide arc into the final corner, and he will be greeted by the checkered flag as he exits the final corner. Round number 3 feature race goes the way of Gyumin Kim for DCTE Racing, weaving across the line. He takes it at the Nürburgring, and Young-Chan Kim for DCT Racing comes home P2, and you can see Dongyu Kim for E-Euro in P3. Fantastic stuff there for the top 3 cars. Everyone else starting to drip and drab their way across the line. Jinsu Kim was able to hold on to P4 over Jung-Soo Kim at the very ends there. There's a battle through the final corner though for P number 7 between Jaemo Go and Hyunjin Jang. They'll be side by side coming across the start-finish line, or at least marginally. But Jaemo Go able to hold on to P7 there in that instance. We're going to cycle things back just that little bit more, just to see if there's yet more battles yet to head their way across the line. But we see the rest of the field head their way through now. But there we go. Drama late on in the race, at least for those positions just outside the podium. And it results in Jinsu Kim getting a surprise P4.
Quite the race this one, Connery. Quite the opposite from what we usually have ended up seeing in the AMX Esports Championship. But the way things have gone for Gyumin Kim, for DCTE Racing for that matter together, more could you ask for? Could you ask for even anything else? A big 1-2, Gyumin dominating, not facing any other pressure from any other team, and all their major rivals, the DR Motorsport team, the Atlas BX guys, having a terrible day, to put it simply. That's the best position for them.
Yeah, this is a whole boatload of points now going to DCT, both the E-Racing and the Racing. You know, one letter difference in the team names, but could make all the difference in terms of their battle between each other for the championship, if it ever comes to that. You know, it's you know, we're all teammates until when there's actual prizes on the line for the teams in this event. So yeah, we'll have to see how that one turns out. But Gyumin Kim will be celebrating. He'll be enthralled about that with his teammates, and they can go into the offline events now with a whole bunch of momentum there. Coming down on towards the pit lane now, which will give us the time just to go through your unofficial race results here at the Nürburgring for the feature event of the AMX Esports Championship round number 3. Gyumin Kim P1, Young-Chan Kim P2 makes it a 1-2 DCT finish. E-Euro with Dongyu Kim in P3 with Jinsu Kim and Jung-Soo Kim P4 and 5 respectively. Great finish, top 5 for Team PS31, gives them a healthy amount of points to hopefully propel them off the bottom of the points order. Chungo Lee and Hyunjin Jang in P7. you've got Chan Jun Lee in P8 and Min Jae Kang in P9. Jae-bin Lee, P10 here today, and then you see the bottom half of the field, Sanjin Lee in P11, Sung-Young Kang, who is involved in pretty much everything here today, in P12, Shin-Hong Kang in P13, Jae-Mo Go P14, Jong Kyum Kim, sprint race winner, unfortunately, down in P15 here today, Jungwoo Lee, also, Team BTC, not the greatest of days for them here today either, as they will have their championship come under threat coming into the round number 4. Jae Joon in P17, Moojin Kim P18, Yun Sub Jong in P19, and Stephen Cho will round out the 20 cars that did indeed take the start here today. So, we've got to wrap up rather quickly here, Sumil, considering our time limitations. But, again, what an event that we've had. I mean, I think these events just sort of really get better and better as time goes on, as the drivers get used to racing each other, as they get used to the platform, as they get used to the cars. I can't wait for our first offline event even, and that'll just be an entirely different beast with regards to potentially who's going to come out on top in that one, because everyone's outside of their comfort zone.
Exactly, and that's just a week away, Conry. So the excitement is just pumping up at this stage. But on the topic of this particular race weekend, I think we're just scratching the surface right now. The real quality, as you mentioned, will come in when these drivers get used to everything. And they've got ample time for that. 18 rounds in the championship. We're going to get a lot more of it all the way through. But for Team BTC today, man, could have been so much more. But then again, others capitalize. And in this case, a 1-2 for DCT. Amazing, amazing victory. I wonder how that battle is going to play out. And we've got so many races coming up this season, as you can see the calendar on your screen, and a variety of them. So in this one, DCT Racing and E-Racing had the best run, but maybe we could see someone like Atlas BX bouncing back at, say, an oval race like Indianapolis next time out.
Potentially, as round number 4, well, we'll do 3 rounds in one, pretty much, at the offline event. So we'll have the 3-driver race at the Indianapolis Oval. Driver changes on an oval, 2 mil, which is something that I have never ever commentated on before, and I've never ever actually seen. So that's going to be a very interesting one, especially when it comes to cautions and some such. But having a look at 2-driver race at Long Beach as well, that is going to be potentially pretty crazy. I will say that. And then, of course, we have the leader race at Spa-Francorchamps, which is many people's favorite track in the world.
Exactly. They've just chosen such a beautiful calendar for the championship, right? So many historic and legendary circuits, and just pure pandemonium sometimes as well. Imagine GT3 cars at Daytona. We never could have imagined what a show we ended up getting the last time out. Then Indianapolis, 3 drivers in GT3s. That's even more crazy for that matter. So all the way through the season, all the way through, we're going to get these crazy mixing and matching of drivers and teams combinations with the tracks as well. Just makes for a good show eventually, and I'm sure that you watching will be having a very good time.
We'll be here for it. Of course, the schedule is a little bit different and the format is a little bit different as well. We'll be going to the offline event on the 25th of June. So that's not on a Thursday, it's on a Friday. So it's a week and a day's time before we get ourselves set for the first of our offline events. And I certainly can't wait for it. We'll be here ready to bring you the English coverage of the AMX Esports Championship. But for now, that's all that we have time for. What a great event here at the Nürburgring for the AMX Esports Championship round number 3. The real-life drivers really gave us a show. So did the juniors at the Charlotte Oval for their 3rd round of their championship as well. But from myself, Connery Manick, and from, of course, Sumil Arora as well, we'll have to say goodbye and see you on Friday next week.